Hello there! What is going on, everyone? We are doing some Star Wars Legion today. It is the watch party for the big new information coming out for Legion. They're calling this one, what are they calling this one? New Battle Orders. New Battle Orders. Now, we learned a very little bit about this. Apparently, look, there's been a lot of rumors, new edition, bigger game. Will Schick has been dropping lots of hints. We, you know, things like Shatterpoint coming out, I think have led to this. They say they've been working on this for 3 years. I think they've been working on probably ways to differentiate Legion and Shatterpoint ever since they found out they were getting these games. But probably putting real hard work into it for 3 years. Not really sure exactly what this is going to be. Definitely a lot of ideas. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some of this stuff. We're going to do some giveaways, too. We're doing giveaways in all of the streams, so we're going to be streaming. I did a video yesterday talking about all the different streams we're doing. 2 streams today, 2 watch parties today, 2 watch parties tomorrow, and another watch party on Saturday. Plus, giveaways going on in Discord, giveaways going on Patreon, and a regular $25 Amazon gift card giveaway if you're just a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Plus, we did a whole nother giveaway in the Battle Foam video I published just a couple of days ago for Shatterpoint Foam. All of these separate giveaways, a lot of really cool stuff. So let me know what's going on in the chat for the live stream. Let me know where you guys are watching from. A lot of folks: Zach, Joseph, Brian, Flying to Save, Ethan, George, or Jorge. It might be Jorge. Otis, Devin. Let's see. Epic, Keldon, and Daniel, and Epic 327. What's going on, all you guys? Sorry if I missed anybody. But we have a really interesting stream, a really fun stream lined up for us. So let's talk about predictions. I want to hear what you guys think is coming for Legion. I want to hear. Ethan says, "Did they say it's 3 years in the making?" Yes, yes, they did. It's got to be a second edition then, Ethan says. You know, it could be. It very well could be a second edition. It very well could be. There had better be Gungans. Scorponex, I see. AT-AT, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if whatever they do announce does pave the way for an AT-AT. But I do not expect the AT-AT to be talked about in this thing. Jorge says, any hot news from Shatterpoint? Lots of new stuff. Nothing specific as far as like the game changing or anything like that, but just all the new expansions that they've spoiled were numerous. They got some more details on ones that were already leaked, and then like Rogue One was the big one, and then Rift Tamsin was another big one. Rogue One has just a lot of the stuff from Rogue One is coming to the game, so that's really cool. Okay. Could this be more of a 1.5 thing? So let's talk about that. I've seen 2.0, 1.5. I don't think AMG really likes calling something a whole nother edition. I don't. I think there's some trepidation there. I think there is some. Oh my gosh, what are you doing, River? My dog is like jumping on me over here. Hi, sweetie. Hi, sweetie. Yours. Lay down, sweetie. Sorry. But no. I think what's going to happen. They've got a whole bunch of new hard plastic coming out for Star Wars Legion. They're reprinting everything that was ever done in soft plastic. That's almost every core for Empire and Rebels, for example. All these new Stormtroopers, all these new Rebel Troopers are coming out. And I know that they don't want them to just sit on store shelves. I know some people will buy them, but a lot of folks who've been playing Legion for a while or already have their armies, why are they going to spend what's probably going to be $50 or more for a new plastic kit? Maybe 35, maybe 40. I don't think they're gonna be cheap. I really don't think they're gonna be cheap. You know, so they gotta have a way to get you to buy more Stormtroopers. I'm paraphrasing. It's not just Stormtroopers, but everything. But I'm using Stormtroopers as the analogy here. And these are facts. They've already said they're redoing all this stuff. This new Stormtroopers look awesome. It's a new sculpt. It's cool, but They're Stormtroopers. You're going to want a lot of them. They're going to want you to buy a lot of Stormtroopers. They're going to want these things flying off store shelves. Retailers don't want to stock a whole bunch of product and have all this stuff stuck on their store shelves. What's going on? Elle Fire Spray is in the house. You guys, if you guys haven't checked out Elle Fire Spray's awesome paint jobs. She streams. She posts photos on her Instagram, on Twitter, on her Twitch channel. She's all over social media. This woman is taking the minis world by storm, and you won't want to miss out on that stuff. Definitely check her out. All right, so I hope my dog is going nuts right now. Okay, you can just lay right there. River's going crazy. She wants to like chew on the legs for my light, and everything might come. So everything comes crashing down. I'm blaming River. River, stop it! What are you doing? He's going crazy. All right. All right. Here's what's going on. They want us to buy all this new stuff. They got a lot of new Stormtroopers, Rebel Troopers. They got a lot of new product coming out. They got to move it. But most of us already have this product. How do you convince an entire game's player base to buy more Stormtroopers when they've already got all the Stormtroopers they need? If you needed more Stormtroopers, you'd have probably bought them years ago. They've been on sale for years. That's where I think this comes into play. That's what I think is going to be the biggest, my biggest prediction about all of this is at the end of the day, we're going to be incentivized to buy more Stormtroopers. And how do you do that? A new edition could do it. A points increase could do it. A new format could do it. A lot of that type of stuff could do it. So, so what I think is going to happen, I think we are going to see a rules update. I think there's going to be some rules update. I think there's going to be this rules update will potentially factor into new ways to play, which is going to be part of Saturday's stream, which we're going to be doing a watch party for as well. But I think there will also be potential balance changes, points changes, and also a change to how you build lists. This could be, it could be as simple as there's no more, like you don't have to bring core anymore, you can bring as many core as you want. Maybe you're not restricted. Like maybe they're not going to say, hey, 6 Stormtroopers is the max you can bring. I think they're going to either get rid of that or raise that limit. I think if you want to bring an army that is all Stormtroopers, I think they're going to let you do that. You know, somehow. That's my thing. Puppy reveal. Oh, she's no puppy anymore. She is full size. She's massive now. She's big and goofy. Yeah. Come here, River. You want to jump up? All right, come on. Come on. Up. Say hi. Say hi. There she is. There she is. There's the puppy. That's right. Okay. Oh, she's a good. You're a sweetheart. Who's a good girl? Oh my God, she's knocking me over. Okay. All right. Puppy reveal. All right. All right. So here's what's going on. That was funny. Yeah. Unexpected. You never know when you're gonna get a surprise puppy reveal. I don't know if you guys have been following me for a while, but do you remember when I showed her off when she was like really little? Like she's super big now. Yeah, she's not quite so crazy anymore, but today she's a little crazy. The only reason you tuned in, more puppy. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I think we're gonna see some rules updates. The thing is, if they increase the points, if they give you bigger, more epic battles, which is definitely something I think is going to happen. My big question is, how do they make the games not take 6 hours? You can already play Legion right now and have a long game. A game can go 2 hours. A game can go much longer than that if you're relatively new, or if you're a little rusty, or you're playing a Grand Army. So a normal game of Legion is 800 points. A Grand Army game is 1,600 points. People don't play Grand Army all that often. I've done it a few times. I've done some battle reports with it. It is fun, but it takes a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring about a faster gameplay method that maybe doesn't have to impact tournament play as much, or maybe does. I don't know. I worry about a faster gameplay, though, because that can take some of the nuance out of the game. Like, maybe I'm shooting your Stormtroopers. We got to measure, check line of sight. Okay, you have cover. Oh, is half of your unit behind the barricade? Okay, you have cover. I've got sharpshooter, so that's going to reduce the cover. You've got surge for defense. Okay, but I've got pierce, so that's going to cancel out. And so one roll can be oh, you're going to spend a dodge token. Okay, oh, well, I'm shooting Darth Vader, so now he's got deflect, so that dodge gives him surge for defense. There's a whole lot of variables and stuff that can trigger on an attack. I could see them potentially just saying no. You know, I made this example during the earlier watch party today. Maybe they were to do something like, okay, boom, attack is just simple. You just roll your dice. There's no modifiers or whatever. I only say that because that would make things faster, but that could also simplify things too much. I bring that all up to say that's what makes me wonder how they're going to speed up gameplay if games go much, much bigger. Because it's a delicate balance. How do you do it? How do you speed up gameplay and still make it fun? You know, part of Legion's appeal are that is that nuance that goes in competitive play, that goes in organized play, and that goes into tournaments. Players are very deliberate about their movements and where they place themselves behind terrain and which units they expose, which units they keep out of firing range. You know, there's a whole lot of strategy that goes into the game. And if you simplify it too much, you throw a lot of that strategy out the window. So I'm really concerned with how the rules are going to change. I'm really curious what is going to happen. And the rules may not change at all. You know, so I have 1,000 different kind of speculative things and speculations that build off of speculations. Like, if they go bigger, how will they slow down or how they speed up gameplay? Maybe they simply won't. Maybe they'll just say, no, Game of Legion, now going to be 1,600 points, and now it's going to take 4 hours minimum. Have fun with it. It's going to be 4 wonderful hours. Maybe that's what they're doing. I mean, Twilight Imperium can take that long or much longer, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful time. All right, I'm going to get to some of your chat questions. Again, let me know where you're watching from. Let me know certain games you play. Speaking of games that you play and giveaways we're going to do, do not mention X-Wing or Armada in the chat if you are watching on the live stream. You can mention it in my chat all you want. Don't do it if you're watching on Twitch. Oh my God, don't you dare do it. AMG will straight up throw you in timeout. You will be like banned for 10 minutes. And if it happens a second time, I think you'll be banned permanently. I don't know what happens if you do it a second time. I certainly am not going to mention it. Don't even mention space games of any kind. They don't want anything to do with space or spaceships. They were banning people left and right over saying anything, even loosely. I was talking about Shatterpoint. I made a comment about Lando and Shatterpoint. They showed us Lando and Shatterpoint, and where they were talking about how the look on his face looks like he's scheming and he's about to change all of the plans and pivot from the designed plan or whatever. And I said, Lando looks like he's thinking about Star Wars Armada or something like that. And then instant banned. I'm like, well, not banned. 10-minute suspension, right? From their Twitch channel. And I was like, wow. I wasn't even, like, I was going along with what they were saying. I was trying to make a joke, about Lando and Shatterpoint staying on topic. I mean, it was loosely off topic. It was in between topics, but it was still on topic. I'm talking about the mini on the screen. I don't know. Anyway, that was instant removal from the chat. So, and I saw a lot of other people that didn't mention Armada at all. That just talked about like spaceships. Somebody said something about spaceships. Instant removal. They're really cracking down. You can't say. I don't know. I mean. I just wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't engage at all. I mean, if you have any question on if something is going to be 100% appropriate, just don't say it, I guess. In my chat, you say whatever you want. Absolutely. But, yeah, so it's very interesting, and to be fair, that's me being kind of upset with AMG and how they handled it. But on the other side, it's their stream. They can do what they want. They can restrict the kind of traffic, whatever kind of traffic they want to restrict, they can do that. I know that they're trying to prevent a lot of angry X-Wing and Armada players from getting hostile. I know that. It makes sense. However, I feel like maybe they're taking it a bridge too far, but that's their prerogative. It's their decision to make. It's not mine. So, yeah. And maybe they were afraid that even if they let like a harmless comment through, it's going to encourage more comments or something like that. That is my guess. I don't know. Battle Force pages stopped working. So they did say also that whatever it is that they publish for all of this stuff with Legion, it's going to be available right after the stream. So you might get a sneak peek if you start mashing F5 on the Star Wars Legion page. I don't think they're going to publish it right. But if the Battle Force pages are gone, then that means it's a change to Battle Force pages, right? Or about a change to battle forces? Maybe battle forces are going away? I wouldn't think they would do that because they're still selling those Battle Force boxes, right? Max says, Gungan Battle Force. I love it. Let's see a Gungan Battle Force. Let's see it. If they don't want us as customers, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I think I'm reading something out of context there. I missed a lot of chat. Let's see. Mandalorian Battle Force, please. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll just see. Maybe there's going to be fundamental changes to how lists are built. Maybe you'll. Maybe you won't need a battle force anymore because maybe you'll just be able. I mean, games do this. I've made analogies to Games Workshop. There's a lot of. Am I still banned? No. It was a 10-minute. It was a temporary thing. I think it was my first warning though. If I do something again, who knows? Maybe permanent next time. They did say that the first time was temporary, so or somebody said that. I think it was one of the mods on the Discord. But yeah. So yeah, more battle forces with less restrictions. That would be interesting. That's one of the problems I think with battle forces as new things come out. Nothing ever gets added to them. For example, look at Shadow Collective. Are they ever going to get anything new? Maybe Shadow Collective won't be a battle force anymore. Maybe you just build an army however you want. You pick a leader, and that leader opens up. I mean, this is kind of similar to how Age of Sigmar does their new list building in their 4th edition. Was that you build a regiment, and whatever hero you put in that regiment that opens up what other people can go with him. So maybe what if for Star Wars Legion, you pick a commander, and that commander tells you which guys you can bring with them, which troops, which tanks, which operatives, etc. And maybe you run 2 commanders, and so but then would you be mixing factions? I don't know. Didn't they talk about faction identity at Adepticon? Excellent question from Philip. They absolutely did. That is probably going to factor into what's happening here. They definitely want to work on faction identity. I think if you look at some of the things that are still coming out in the future, that those will be, obviously play into whatever is going to happen. Like generic Jedi for the Republic is a very cool thing. Those are coming with like the ARF troopers. A Jabba leader. I don't know if we're going to get Jabba the Hutt. I could see Hutts coming in. I would love to see more factions. I'd love to see a lot more factions in this game. Hutt Cartel, or even like with Shadow Collective, I'd love to be able to run the Pikes as a faction instead of just Pikes under Maul. How about Pikes working for themselves? I guess you can do that, but it's technically still Shadow Collective, So yeah, no, there's cool stuff, and I'd love to see more. But yeah, so let's take a look at what they're gonna do. I think we've got 7 minutes. This is exciting. Boom. Still nothing yet. So I will be swapping over once AMG starts their stream. We'll be doing it. Yeah, this should be starting in about 7 minutes. Okay, very, very cool. I'm going to get to some more of you guys' questions. A Crabbok operative, range 5, 7 red dice, pierce 7. Wow. No, I'd be more melee. I'd have nunchucks. It'd be a melee threat. Lightsaber nunchucks. There's already actually there was. I don't know if it's even up anymore. There was actually a Crabbok miniature for Legion that Mel Miniatures made. If you went to his Shapeways shop, he made a clone Commander Crabbok, and it was a sculpt of me with 2 sets of lightsaber nunchucks, and it was awesome. The guys over at Master of the Fleet, MOTF, in Australia, they set the whole thing up, and it was very cool. All right, so let's do a giveaway. We got 200 viewers, which is really cool. I'll do 2 giveaways. As a matter of fact, I'll do one now and one later, right? We've got a bunch of these Force Push cards. Now, I don't think... these are in different languages. So I've got I've got some French and Spanish and I think German. So yeah, we've got force push cards. The German one is cool. I think it's German. I don't want to say for sure, but it's like Maktos. Maktstos. Maktstos. Can you read that? You can't read that, can you? Anyway, it's cool stuff. The force push cards. We've got a couple of them, and we're gonna do some giveaways for force push. So give me a hashtag force push if you want to win. And what we'll do is I'll select 2 winners since we're over 200. If we get over 300 viewers, I'll add another one in there. Now I can't guarantee a specific. Now what we'll do is, if you win, I'll try to get your preference, and I'm not going to guarantee you'll get the one that you want, but it's going to be one of them. And you're going to. I mean, you know what it does anyway. You exhaust it and it pushes somebody. You know, a speed 1 move. But they're really fun. They're fun. These were from like that first OP kit. When AMG first took over Legion, we voted on what card to get the promo of, and people picked Force Push, and it was their first ever promo that AMG designed. So very cool. Well, we got a lot of, oh my god, look at all you guys with the hashtag Force Push. We got a lot of folks that want those. All right, so if we get over 300, I'll give away a 3rd one. So if you want to share this watch party out on your networks, if you want to share it out with your friends and your local Discords and your communities, you know, if we get over 300, for every 100 we get, I'll pick an extra winner. Okay, so to make sure you are sharing this, so the more viewers we get, more winners we're gonna get. So that's cool. But I'm gonna announce that after the stream, so we'll watch. Because after the stream is when the fun happens. We watch the stream, we get all the cool, groovy news, and then, once it's over, then we come back. I'll swap over to AMG, we'll come back here, and then we will talk about what happened. We'll be like, oh my god, you guys, did you see the guns? Did you see the AT-AT in Legion? Rather, 5 AT-ATs, all starting on the Imperial side, marching towards Echo Base. I really want that game. I want to be able to do the Battle of Hoth. I want 5 AT-ATs and then a bunch of AT-STs. And General Veer is leading a bunch of snowtroopers and Darth Vader storming the base. Like, I want that game. Why can't we get that game? That's the game I want. If Legion was on a smaller scale, we could have done that, right? Like if Legion was in like that 10mm scale. X-Wing was supposed to have a ground game that was kind of in the works, and it would have been at that scale where the dudes were teeny tiny dudes, you know. And I don't know why I had to say it super high pitched like that. Teeny tiny dudes. I don't know. It sounds weird. It almost sounds like something Mini Crab would say. Oh no, it's Mini Crab. Ladies and gentlemen, what is he doing? Get out of here, Mini Crab. Get out of here. All right. He's nuts. All right, they should be going live. All right, they are getting ready to start. As soon as they start, we'll be swapping over. We'll swap over just like that. And they begin. So it's gonna be fun. Are you guys excited? Is it gonna be crazy? Do you think it's gonna be crazy? I think it's gonna be crazy. Wow, some of these paint jobs they're showing off. They're weird. Alright. But yes. Bad Batch. What comes out tomorrow officially, I think. That's gonna be pretty cool. Apprehensive, to be honest. Definitely, there's a lot of reason to be super concerned. For sure. A lot of reason to be concerned. They have had some bad rules adjustments in the past. Definitely had bad rules adjustments. The X-Wing changes were so bad that it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. But yeah. Yep. I don't know. It's going to be super fun, though. All right, let's see what else we've got. Mini Crab for president. You guys are funny. All right, let's see. Crab updates, please. Crab droids. Yeah, but, well, this isn't new content This isn't we're going to get the Crab Droids and all of the new units and all the new expansions probably announced tomorrow at the Legion roadmap. So tune in tomorrow at noon. We'll be doing another watch party for that. I'll go live probably 11:30, half hour beforehand. You can watch on their Twitch channel, or you can watch with me, or you can watch in both places at the same time in case you get banned for mentioning a space game like X-Wing or Armada, even casually. Or
hello, everyone, and welcome to War Table New Battle Orders for Star Wars Legion at Ministravaganza number 7. This is the one. 90 minutes. Yeah, 7. Great. We can all count. Beautiful. Hope you're all having a great day out there. Thank you so much for joining us for this exciting look at all the new things for Star Wars Legion. We're going to start with a little bit of a discussion about what to expect from the panel. And then we're going to dive in and show you all of the cool things that are coming. Big note is that everything we're going to show is going to go live on the website for print and play, so you can immediately start using it. It'll be legal, all of that good stuff, right after this panel. So you can feel free to grab your screenshots and share them while the panel's going on, but honestly, you don't have to go through that effort because you're just going to get it all in the official documents right after this. So why are we here? We are here because Legion is entering into its 6th year. In fact, 6th year was a few months ago. So we're right past the birthday. And of course, well, the game has been going strong. As games age, as they grow, as they expand, they always wind up needing a little bit of cleanup, a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of gardening and pruning and those kinds of things. So that's what we're here to discuss. Over the last 3 years, we have been heavily working, testing, iterating, and going back and back to the drawing board, quite a few times actually, with our wonderful playtesters and internally to effectively create a new refresh, not a new edition. This is very much the original Legion that we all know and love, but it has been dramatically affected and rebalanced. We're going to be talking about a brand new battle deck and changing the way in which missions work in order to bring more interactivity, more excitement to the gameplay itself. We're going to be talking about a massive rebalance. So a while ago, we announced and showed off the fact that we are going to be redoing all of the soft plastic miniatures into hard plastic. As part of that, of course, it gave us the chance to go in and start to look at all of the original units that were made for the game, as in addition to everything holistically as where we are now, where we're going with new development. And we're doing a massive rebalance for that. So effectively, we're going to go through the first half of this process. And that's going to be the important bit to know is that today is one part of it. The second part of it, the full completion of this entire refresh, is going to be finished out around this time next year. So we're going to be talking a bit more about part 2 come Adepticon and its roadmap in 2025, showing you more of what to expect. But the whole culmination is effectively going to be that you're going to get a brand new refreshed Legion that has updated rules, an updated look, everything else going on, with everything going forward and set up for the success of the next 5 to 10 years. And we're going to continue to, of course, iterate and build on the foundation. But this is kind of the big moment where doing everything all at once made the most sense. It provided the best balance for the game and allowed us to have a strong foundation from where to go next and ensure that everything was going to be fairly stable and ready for all of the new things that we have coming on as well. With that, the first thing we're going to show off is the brand new Legion logo. So the Legion logo that you know and love has been radically updated. It's still very much Legion, but our graphic designer, Ryan Ritter, Star Wars extraordinaire, has done so many amazing things for all of the different Star Wars lines, including Shatterpoint and Legion, has updated the Legion logo. So this is going to be the new look. You're going to see this in all the packaging and everything else. One of the big reasons for this updated refresh in terms of the look and everything else, not just with the game rules, but again, this is a holistic thing, is the idea that we are moving into multilingual. So you've seen this maybe with some of our other products, the fact that we are now putting multiple languages into the single package. This is a really important step for us and for the gaming community because what it means is it allows us to have a broader reach to provide these games in multiple different language pathways to communities that may not necessarily, or regions that may not necessarily have a big enough customer base or player base at the moment to be able to sustain those products, right? And so by combining them all together, we actually provide savings across the board to everyone. We make it easier for regions to have product in stock, for our distribution partners to be able to share that product, and ensure that people don't run into situations where they may not have a product available in the region for a long, long time. Additionally, by doing all this, it actually does reduce manufacturing costs and everything else. So it is a very substantial benefit overall, even though it may seem like that wouldn't be the case because you're putting more in the box. So multilingual is a very important step for us. It's an important step for the communities in general, and we're excited to be bringing this to Legion. That also means that we have to look at everything from a graphic design and layout standpoint and visual standpoint to ensure that it is multilingual compatible. And some of the things we're going to show off and change have been affected due to that in order to make sure that it is all set up for that way. Also to just give it a modern and the best look that we possibly can. It's not just the design and everything else that changed. We, of course, over the 3 years have refreshed, rebalanced, and looked at all of the rules within the game, all of the units, all of the core mechanics and everything else. Not only have we updated the packaging and the car design and everything else as you're going to see, we also had our amazing art team led by Preston Stone go through and effectively redo almost every single piece of Legion art and update it to a brand new modern look with brand new stylings. All of the art you're going to see in this presentation effectively is a marker of that. Command card art was updated, character card art was updated, unit card art was updated. Pretty much nothing was left untouched. I think overall we redid about 95% of the art when we took over the stewardship of the game. And so there's amazing new visuals. You're going to see that throughout all of this. So that's where we're at. The one thing I want to make clear is that, again, this is not a second edition. It doesn't invalidate anything that anyone has in their collection. In fact, all it does is update, hopefully rebalance, and bring new excitement to what you do have. The game is going to feel very similar. There are going to be, of course, as with most of these updates, a couple of rules changes that we're going to discuss. Additionally, well, we have 90 minutes. We're not going to be able to cover everything in detail. So we're going to give you like the high level look at everything. We're going to discuss things. We're going to hit the points that we think are most important to cover in person. But along with those documents, right after this panel, there's going to be I would call it a doctoral thesis on Legion, written by my fine fellow developers here as a group that effectively goes into all of the changes, why we thought the change needed to be made, some of the data behind the changes and the way in which we changed them, and then kind of some examples as well as in terms of what this means for the overall effect and what it brought to Legion. So you can check that out as well. There's that's for all of the math junkies out there. There's going to be some good math breakdowns in there, talking about statistics and data and all of that.
We did high level.
You used round numbers.
Yeah, we did high level.
I mean, there's no like chart.
We didn't go crazy.
Even though Mr. Ben Ransom did build a wonderful chart, which, let's be honest, shows your prejudice against the Imperial Army, because it was all about what does it take to kill a unit of Stormtroopers.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah. How dare you, Ben?
Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's dive in because, it is time. One of the big things that players have been asking about, which has tickled us no end and made waiting for this moment very difficult, has been a lot of people have been asking, when is the battle deck going to get refreshed? When are we going to see new missions? When are we going to see some adjustments? Because obviously the original system was showing its age. Those cards and what they were asking you to do have obviously been around for a long time. They've supported the game and grown the game, but it was time for a modern take. It was time for new missions to come in and challenge players in new ways. So we have completely redone the battle deck. We're going to talk about that evolution right now. And here is the new mission dashboard. We're going to go through each of these items individually, but I'm going to turn it over to my fellow devs to start talking about what the new mission deck is, what the new battle deck, the new missions, and everything are to do, what each of these sections are, and we're going to show you some examples of those cards to get that going as well.
Yeah, so we had a couple of big priorities whenever we're making the new mission system, adding progressive scoring into the game, and getting both players' battle decks involved so that you have a more collaborative experience for building the mission. So how it works is we added a priority roll to the game instead of the bid system. So you roll to see who becomes the blue player for doing the first mission setup action, and that player puts their mark on the blue player mark and reveals one of their objectives or secondary objectives randomly. And then the red player would then reveal the other one, and then they each reveal one of their advantages. So whenever they're doing that, after doing that, each of them can, starting in the blue player order, modify the mission once, so they can veto their opponent's objective that they put out and put out one of their own, or even change one of their own. The only thing that is for advantages, you can't put your own advantage into the opponent's deck. So
You got to use your own.
Your advantages are your advantages.
Yes.
advantages just give you something that is definitely something your own edge in the battle. So it's a guarantee that you have something that you like.
So one of the big goals here was to adjust the mission building process to make it more interactive between players, but also maintain the core identity of the basically the original system, where you could veto certain cards within the layout. By having both players get to use their cards, Tony, you can probably jump off this slide. I think we've looked at it enough.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful.
Yeah, there were 12 victory points there, which
There
is
are.
the condition for winning the game, and 5.
We'll
We'll
dive into that.
there.
You'll remember. They'll know what the 12 is.
Yes.
But the goal was to make sure that veto system that bounced back and forth was still there, but to provide players more interactivity and more agency in terms of setting up the mission. So by allowing players the choice of replacing their advantage card, replacing the primary objective, or replacing the secondary objectives from their specific decks, it means that there's more cards in play, and there's more likelihood that players are going to have meaningful choices over what to use with their limited amounts of vetoes. I don't know if you want to talk more about that as well.
There's one thing that we haven't mentioned, which is you can also take blue player
Yes.
as one of your vetoes as well. So that is a pretty interesting thing there.
So yeah, we tested a lot of iterations with this, with more or less cards, or
More or less vetoes, more or less cards.
and basically
how
we were
many
just
cards, all
seeing
that kind of
what made for the best games and playtest.
Yeah,
So I mean, we got to see that quite a bit, and the 2 vetoes per side, starting with the blue player, so the red player gets to veto last. Is they both players feel like they have their own strong advantages in the system.
And by using both players' battle decks, it's much harder to end up in a situation where you're just blown out by the scenario.
Yeah.
Right,
Because
right.
if you say, hey, I really can't play this, you can veto it. And then hopefully they don't have a second thing in their deck. So like if you veto it, put yours in, they veto yours, put theirs in. Hopefully it's not one that just blows you out again.
Yeah,
If it
it-
is, you should probably change your army list.
It distills the previous iteration of how the battle deck worked into a more interactive version that is more fair for both players, as you just mentioned, and also you don't have perfect information, right? So previously you created a grid, and you would see, okay, if I veto that one, that's the next card that I have. Now you're flipping off a deck. So while you know what's in your deck, there is some variance there in it.
For sure.
It leads to a more interactive and fair experience.
If you get
for
down to
both
the last
players.
card of your deck, then you know what is there.
Right,
so
exactly,
you can,
yeah.
if
You
you,
can
have
still do
a
that.
strategy, but it is very hard to kind of manipulate the system.
Yeah.
There were some other interesting things on that slide if we want to touch on for 2
Yeah.
seconds.
We can
Tony,
always
if we
go
can pull
back.
that
Tony
up.
can go back.
Can we go back to the slide?
Reverse, Tony.
On the right-hand side of the screen here, you see 3 red tokens. Objectives are now 2-inch tokens, not 1-inch tokens.
Yep, the point of interest. Yep.
So those are the point of interest that are used in the primary objectives. And there's also a little half-range tool down there, which is very exciting, which gives us half-range measurements, which
we're
is
gonna
going
be
to be used a
talking-
bunch, and a bunch of stuff coming up.
We're going to be
So-
talking a lot about the importance of that half-range tool and being able to measure things that are not just 6 inches. Ben, if you want to talk about why there are 12 victory points on the map.
Yeah, so whenever a player gets to 12 victory points, at the end of the round, if a player has 12 victory points and they have more victory points than their opponent, they win the game. So
And how many rounds are there, Ben?
There are 5 rounds in a game of Legion now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that as well when we get to the scenarios.
We will.
Yeah, there's
So-
a whole lot that went into that, so let's just keep it moving
So-
and
Keep
we'll
moving
talk.
and we'll get there.
So let's go
Yeah.
ahead and start by looking at the. So we're gonna bury the lead a little bit. We're gonna start with the advantage cards and look at what the advantage cards are. Now, keen eyes probably realize that condition cards are nowhere to be found on anywhere on that dashboard. That's because the condition cards have been removed and they've been replaced with these advantage cards instead. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first one, which is Strafing Run. There are 6 of these. We're only going to talk about 2 just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. And I'm going to let the dev team take away whatever you want to say about advantages, where they go, and how these 2 different ones kind of represent different facets of the entirety.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we decided to change to doing advantage cards instead of condition cards is the condition card could be a benefit for a player, or it could not, or it could really just not be impactful in the game. And so we wanted to pivot to advantage cards because this way you always guarantee that something on that dashboard that ends up being used for the game will be beneficial to you, right? So each player has an advantage. Obviously, you're going to pick one that will help out your army in
Hopefully.
some
Hopefully.
way,
Hopefully.
right? Like, and they vary, right? Like we're looking at strafing run here, so this is one where you get to put out an advantage token, and then
You get to do a strafing run.
You get to do a strafing run. You get air support
Puts
to
out a
throw
lot
out
of
some
suppression.
suppression on enemy units. There's other examples like things that put out barricades. We're about to look at another one. Tony could go to the next slide. So there's this one here, Advanced Intel, that gives, during the first activation phase, you get an additional pass token to your pass pool.
Vin, what is a pass token?
So pass tokens are how we track the number of passes a player has. So
The number of passes. So now it's more than one, is what you're telling me.
So the number of passes is just the difference between the number of units each player has minus 1. So really easy to figure out. If somebody has 9, somebody has 7, then you'll have 1 pass.
Great.
This gives you an additional pass on round 1. So on round 1, very important. Whenever you are deploying on round 1.
And we're going to talk about the changes to deployment in a second.
After we're through the missions, we'll
That's
talk
right.
about that. And
Right.
remember this card.
Remember this card
This
that you
is
can
very
get
relevant.
additional passes on the first round of the game. Okay, let's jump to the secondary objectives. Secondary objectives, another new add to the overall mission strategy and pool. So one of the things with the iterative scoring that was really important was the fact that just focusing on the primary mission didn't lead to as much choice and player options as possible. Pagani really wants to finish this off, so I'm going to let him talk.
Yeah, the secondary objectives were really there to add another shot of flavor into the primary objectives, as well as give players something else that they can do. So if you have a unit that can activate but cannot necessarily contribute to an attrition fight or cannot necessarily contribute to the primary objective, maybe they can do the secondary objective. So with those two things of a great flavor injection and then as well as a variety of things for units to do on the battlefield, secondary objectives played out great in playtest.
They also add a really great tension of I can try to continue to press on the primary objective, or I can try to grab the secondary objective first, give myself a score bump, or potentially break a dead heat and win the game, right? Now, doing so may come at the expense or be a gambit in terms of trying to continue to maintain a consistent pressure on the primary. So it really breaks up what players can do and what their tactical options and strategic options are. And each secondary, as we'll see, and we'll talk about these, can play into different styles of army construction and different factions overall from their identities. So,
Mark targets here is really
kinda like your
straightforward.
vanilla one,
No,
bread and butter.
Yeah, it's very
Murder
straightforward.
things.
Yeah, it's just about defeating units. But you get to choose 2 of your units. You get to choose 2 of your opponent's units, and each player does that. So generally, the ones that you choose for yourself are very hard to remove. So it is very much like a tactical bury your last victory points. Make sure that they can't get to them, and keeping your most important things safe is the sort of ends up playing out usually that those aren't destroyed till towards the end of the game because you can play with them differently.
Yeah, you get 2 good options and 2 bad options, right?
Right.
And then how can you deal with that? And what units did you bring in your army that maybe your opponent can prey on, or what units can you bring in your army that your opponent can't prey on?
I think what you just said, how do you deal with that, is kind of an interesting question that, as Shik just said earlier, we want to kind of increase the tactical and strategic options. One of the big things that we were doing with these new missions is we want to increase the options that players have for viable play styles and viable ways to create their armies, right? So we'll have different missions and different secondary missions that cater to certain army types, and we try to do a good job of spreading that out to give players different options for how they want to play and how they want to construct their battle deck to support their army and whatnot.
And so let's take a look at the second one. So mark targets obviously rewards you for destroying things. What we're going to look at next, bringing them to heal, plays a quite different flavor in terms of suppression. So right away, if you're playing Empire, if you're playing with a lot of suppressive in your army, this might be the secondary objection that you're going to dig for.
Darth Vader loves this card.
Darth Vader
It's
does.
all about it, for sure.
Yeah. So it's just every round, whoever has suppressed more enemy units at the end of the round before they remove their suppression tokens gains a victory point. So
And you have these kind of stretch goals at the bottom, right?
Right. So these are things you can score once per game. So if you panic an enemy unit, which is it takes quite a bit of focus generally, or suppressive weapons, then you score 2 victory points. And if you get a suppression token on everything that can have a suppression token, you get 2 victory points.
It's happening.
So not there. So if they have null courage or they have tanks, you don't have to get suppression on those because you can't.
Yeah.
but everything else.
In playtest, that one was, I really like this one because it led to really explosive end games where when people don't have a lot of units left, you can really score that like.
So it generally
you get
only
expression onto everybody.
only capable of doing this towards the end of a game,
Yeah.
and
It made
that really
very
makes it very,
explosive
very
ends.
exciting. It flips the game
And,
over.
and let's talk a bit about a second. So, in the previous secondary objective, there's a kind of a fixed number of victory points available there. And on this one, there's a variable amount, right? You have these, stretch goals at the bottom that you can, only get once, but then you can get one. It's starting to
Effectively every round.
right? And so that kind of goes back to the progressive scoring of, some of the scenarios, objectives or secondary objectives have different rates at which you can score, and that goes into don't want to build an army that's going to try to, blitz through to get those 12 victory points as soon as I can, and maybe I'm not as tough, durability and attrition wise, or do I want to try to play the long game and have a more attrition focused army?
Yeah, and so that's a great segue. Let's just dive in and start looking at what the new primary objectives look like. We're going to go through all 6 of these just so we can discuss each in brief, each of the different play styles, each of the different thought processes behind them, and how they kind of tie together. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is deployment, because you look at the map cards and immediately you'd say, okay, I understand from the old system that red is red player's deployment, blue is blue player's deployment. That's not true anymore. Those are called territories. Ben, tell us what a territory is and why it matters.
So a territory is an area where you can move in off the edge of the board whenever your unit activates. So all the units without a special rule start off the board, and they move on with their first action, with their move action. So any of the board edges that are within that territory, you can start with the movement template touching those and move to the end of it. So,
Connie, you want to talk a little bit about what this dynamic deployment in round 1 kind of brought to the game, some of the thought processes behind it, and how it impacts a lot of the design that we're going to see going forward with missions and some of the units.
Absolutely. So because no one is deploying at all, you now have a very interesting cat and mouse game of when do you want to activate your important units? When do you want to activate your not important units? Where do you want to put them, right? Because there's no restriction on where you're putting your units until you've committed them to the battlefield. So if you have an ATST and they only have a few anti-tank weapons, you can wait for them to deploy those and deploy the ATSD somewhere else. It's just sort of a very basic idea of explaining what sort of this cat and mouse thing can go on here. There is also something called prepared positions, which essentially lets you set up your unit inside of your territory anywhere you want. Very similar to the old deployment rules. You do get a free dodge token. Yay! And then there is infiltrate, which gets wild, but we don't need to go into that at the moment.
Yeah, I think that I personally was really skeptical about this at first, and then we were going through in playtest, and like you said, as this really dynamic kind of cat and mouse interactive deployment between the two players, and you're interacting, right off the bat. It's not, where you deploy and all right, who wants to commit first, and we play this game of chicken. We're interacting right as soon as the game starts.
So it brings different considerations than deployment did before, where you're looking for the same things you did in static in the previous deployment, where you're looking for the right matchups and going to the right side of the board. But you're also looking for the right timing to make shooting attacks. You're looking for the right timing to you might want to deploy different things last in this system because you might want they might be more important for that first round action.
And there's also a lot of consideration in army building for this kind of thing, right? What do I want to activate first? Can I activate something hyper durable that can go stand out in front of my opponent's army? Can I activate something super fast that can get out there and get behind a building or get behind some cover or something, right? So you have a lot of different options inside of the different armies for what you want to activate, when, and how it all works out in terms of round 1.
And you get to play a command card, and you get all the command card effects. So there's still the same considerations of what goes into deciding on a command card, of how many orders you want to issue, what your initiative is.
It was really great to take the time that was normally spent in I don't want to say completely inactive or non-interactive way, but when you deployed, right, you were looking for, okay, I know everything's going to be on the table. I can kind of see what my opponent's doing. I'm going to try to make sure that I can't be shot. So where are my places where I can block all line of sight so that I don't get overwhelmed by range 4 weapons that my opponent brought.
This round 1 is extremely exciting.
It's an entirely different system because now you don't have to necessarily worry about, I only have a limited amount of completely line of sight block sections. So what am I going to sacrifice on the pyre, or how am I going to balance out the deployment that I have? Rather, you're able to bring these things on in a considered way that interacts in the way that the game normally plays. It just makes it feel more integrated into the entire experience. And I love the strategy and tactics. So let's talk a little bit about shifting priorities, and this one being effectively kind of the base experience or the most normal battlefield situation with its mostly centerline objectives and everything else.
I think it's worth mentioning that in the new primary objectives, there is no longer a map card that is part of mission building.
Right.
So shifting priorities will always use this map card and these territories and this objective setup.
Right, and yeah, we did that to make a consistent experience for how the armies, what they need to consider, and making it like the fair movement. Well, that's so shifting priorities is essentially the objectives are right across the center of the map, right in between the two territories. And whenever you score one of these, your opponent then gets to move it so they can score it a little more easy in the next turn.
Or it makes you harder, right? So you have to keep pushing if you're pushing,
Yep.
and it is sort of a comeback mechanic type thing where if you're not doing well in the scenario, it becomes easier for you to score.
Yeah, so it just changes where you need to go. It's going to change basically every round.
All right, so let's take a look at Recover the Research, which adds a bit more considerations. And of course, talking about shifting priorities, I think that one really favors a balanced list building approach, right?
Yeah.
You need mobility, you need things that can hold positions. You need a good mix of stuff. As we go through these, you're going to find that each one of these scenarios does favor certain list builds or ask different questions that then say, okay, what do I want to take instead? Recover the Research being...
Yeah, this is, you only have to contest objectives in order to score here. So that is, you only have to have one unit that is within their unit leaders within half range of the objective to score it.
So that is a change, right? It's no longer base to base. It's half range.
It was, yeah. Right. So the shifting priorities,
And that's for all of
securing was is what you do for most of the objectives, which is you have to have more units that are on the objective than your
Unit
opponent.
leaders, specifically.
Unit leaders.
Yeah, and so as they're saying, this is a scenario that very benefits fast armies. So if you have speeder units, they can get there and take the objectives, which, by the way, big change, vehicles can now contest
True.
objectives.
Yes.
Every unit in the game can contest objectives. So this scenario is very much about like, okay, I can spread out. I have to have mobility to get from point to point. I can threaten points that my opponent are weak
And
weak
it
on.
rewards you for spreading
And
out.
it rewards you for spreading out. I also want to talk a second about how the deployment change, how interesting it is where instead of walking onto the battlefield, instead of deploying range 1 from the edge, getting kind of that pseudo about foot back
True, yeah.
does a lot. If you want to expand on that a little bit.
The armies start much farther apart, right? Because you're
Yes.
essentially starting range 2 farther apart, which makes the longer range guns more interesting because it gives you a lot of value for those. And then it also makes faster units much more interesting in how they can interact on turn 1 and things like that, especially against prepared position units and other things.
Yeah, buying back effectively an extra foot of space of the table.
It's very cool.
Has a phenomenal impact on each of the different roles for the units. It really opens up that breadth that you need to make range 3 to range 4 feel that much more impactful, to make speed 3 versus speed 1 that much more impactful.
You see a lot of units making moves.
Yes.
Early
moves.
That free
right?
compulsory move is very important.
So let's jump into Intercept the Signals. This one, I believe, is the brawl scenario,
Yeah, very brawly.
as Ben likes to call it.
So yeah, during each of the point of interest, each of the towers that isn't in your deployment zone are the ones you can score. So you have to get across the table. You have to get to the middle of the table, at the very least, to score. And you get 2 units that get tokens on them that make it so they only have to contest to score. So those units are rewarded for mixing into the opponent's side. If they skew to one side, you can still score the objective that's on that side with those units. And you keep getting those tokens back. You keep getting them on units as your units get defeated. So this makes it so taking the center of the table is very good, controlling, destroying units, and also diving in with some units.
Yeah, I think it's what I love about this one specifically is that it's not just take the center of the table; it's hold the center of the table,
Right.
Which is very different from a lot of the other scenarios where you
have
can
to
get in, you can get your points, and then if you get defeated, like okay, I got my points. But this one is much more, because it's a little slower and it's scoring, it's much more about staying there and holding it down and that kind of stuff. So.
Let's move on to Breakthrough, which this one is, if you love speeders and you love going fast, Breakthrough is probably for you.
This is the Paplu scenario.
It is. It is the Paplu's Wild Rice
He's not in
in
it,
a lot of ways.
but
So
he's
very
ready.
different territory deployments. The objective placements, obviously. This kind of mimics the old deployments where it was lengthwise of the table rather than than width of the table. So talk a little bit about all of the different considerations that go into this one and kind of what it incentivizes in terms of play.
So this makes it so you are you need to put forces in places that are very, very spread out. You know, you essentially split your forces into two for the majority of your forces, because you need to get to the opponent's objective that's on the right, and you need to get to their opponent's objective on the left, and you need to protect yours. So that big left-right divide makes it so where you deploy is extremely important.
Yeah, and it kind of has, it asks the players this question of like, all right, you kind of got this little attack and defend strategy that you have to do. All right, how much of my army do I want to dedicate to trying to push my opponent's points versus, defending my points? And like, oh, well, maybe if I have some fast units, not only can they go take my opponent's points, but maybe they can auto back and defend mine, if one of my flanks collapses.
Or if you win a flank with a fast unit, it can then recommit to the other
exactly.
side, which other units have no chance of doing.
And long-range shooting units, if they deploy in the middle of the objectives, they can affect either side, which gives them a kind of unique advantage that most units are not going to be able to do. They're not going to be able to very easily get from supporting one flank to the other flank.
One of the cool things I like about this territory map on this scenario is that it in playtests we found it's really common for you to deploy your units close to one of the objectives and then go towards the other one because that's the shortest route. But it's really interesting, the units that have infiltrator prepared positions, right, they can appear anywhere in your territory. So if you have like a long range unit with prepared positions, you can kind of put that in the middle of your territory as kind of an anchor piece, right? It's like, okay, well now I have the flexibility, like I can go attack that
like
one,
range
or I can
4,
defend
range
this
5
one.
units with prepared position.
Yeah, or if it's a fast
unit.
unit with one, right? Like now you get that extra flexibility where the other units in your army can't have it.
I think my favorite prepared positions trick on this one is deploying in a little corner right next to their territory. Like that is very close.
It's very
right? Like range 2
You have to
guns
move
can
not
get in
very
there.
far.
So you can deploy very, very close to your
Especially if
opponent's
both players
objectives.
do that.
Yeah,
So
if both
then
players do it, like
then
it's
it gets
on.
really exciting.
It's on. It's time to party.
Let's go ahead and jump to the next mission, which is Bunker Assault. This one is for anyone who loves special forces, operatives, and commanders.
And gun lines.
And, of course, static gun lines as well.
Yeah, this is kind of a different flavor of the intercept the singles. So it's the same kind of what we saw before, is you have to attack the points on your opponent's side of the battlefield. And if you are a commander, operative, or special forces unit, you are better at that. And it's kind of the same idea as Breakthrough as well, where you have this question of, okay, I have to attack their points and defend mine. How do I want to split up my forces to do that? On this one, however, the map is much more centralized, so you're not really having to split your force into two separate sections to do that. So it's kind of a mashup between some of the
And you have
other
this
missions.
huge score potential of if you can
Yes.
destroy their bunker, then you're going to score 3, and you also stop them from ever being able to score it again, right? So playing with that and knowing the right cadence at which you want to remove the consistent scoring for the big score, I think makes this scenario much more interesting than it kind of looks at the front, where you're just like, well, we're just going to deploy and we're just both going to score, and the secondary objective is going to break it.
I think this
you
one
can really maximize based on destroying those bunkers and controlling that.
Breakthrough is really intense. Like it says, don't let the opponent score your objective. It makes it much easier for you to defend your home objectives. They're very advantage for you, the ones that are close to your territory. And the first person that breaks generally has their opponent comes in and scores their objective. They're at a huge disadvantage at that point. So it's a very tense sort of standoffish mission.
This one also has very explosive ends.
Yes.
If you blow up that bunker, then
like you roll in round 4 or 5, and you're like, great, I was able to take both, and I was way behind before. Sweet, right? Like and you get in there with your operatives and your special forces, doing all those cool operative special forces things. I love it. The narrative of this one.
This is also one
my
where we've
favorite.
seen, in our playtest games where the secondary can be really important. Because it can be, if you have two very durable armies, it can be very hard to break through and capture those bunkers, and sometimes the secondary is what swings the game for you.
Yep. All right, let's look at the last one, which is Close the Pocket.
The weird one.
The weird one. So this is a good old refused flank style of missions. Very classic in terms of strategy and tactics.
Yeah, are you going to refuse or not?
Are you going to refuse or not? You're going to split? Are you going to try to go for all three, or are you just going to focus on a couple?
And this one, I think, gives you the most wild round one deployment questions of like, man, I haven't put anything over
And
here.
if
Do I
somebody
where
has
do I
that,
go?
if somebody has that additional pass, it's brutal.
it's-
So you normally can't pass twice in a row. So you're committing forces back and forth, back and forth. So this makes it so that deployment question is very, very tense.
Yeah, but otherwise, this one is pretty chill, besides its crazy deployments.
So scoring the center gets you 2 victory points,
everybody else has won.
which is very mobility centered. You generally have to make 4 moves with a speed 2 unit to get there right around.
But didn't have any help, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and I think it leads to like interesting questions, strategy-wise. I know in our playtest games, I've thought to myself, all right, do I want to, take the approach of I want to rush that middle point with some fast units that necessarily aren't as durable, or do I want to, wait till later in the game when I have some, infantry units that may be more durable, but it's going to take them longer to get there, right? So it's, how do you want to approach the strategy of taking that center point?
And this
that's
gets
very
really
far away?
exciting with whenever the table setup is not good for, so like deciding table side is huge here, because this is one of the more deployment deciding how the forces are matched up scenario. So the table setup here, blocking that center objective from one of the flanks, means your opponent gets to predict where you're going much more easily. And so it is it can get very intense for competing for blue player to try to get see who gets which side.
I think that's another really interesting thing that we should chat about, right? Is the idea that having the deployment zones be locked to red and blue player, and then having that, like, you might ask, okay, why am I really competing for red or blue outside of this ability to go first? The goal is that tables are not symmetrically designed, right? No battle takes place over a perfectly symmetrical battlefield. Players must deal with, or generals must deal with, the idea that there may be terrain that favors one side or the other. And so this really allows players to explore that idea, yet maintain a competitive balance of where there are choices. You're not getting locked into the bad table side. You have every opportunity to take the table side that you think will benefit you at the expense of other things.
Yeah.
And it leads, as we found, right, it really opened up table setups. You could create really interesting questions that felt fair to the players because you have the ability to affect that stuff. I really love what it does from as a hobby miniatures and a hobby guy who loves building tables and making interesting stuff and getting as much terrain on the table as possible, right? Like for me, for Dallas and I, the possibilities it opens up in terms of just asking those questions, making each game feel impactful, making the battlefield part of the story of the battle in ways that you don't see that in every miniatures game. A lot of the times they rely on the idea that, like, well, if you put a building on this corner, put a building on that corner. If you put a thing here, put it over there, right? Yeah. Like, make sure that it is quote unquote fair. And that's fine, but
whenever it's not fair, the gameplay gets very interesting.
Right. That's what makes that's what really brings out, I think, the tactics and the strategy. And of course, players have complete control of that if they want to continue to set up with like symmetrical designs or take turns setting up terrain. But the reality is that this system does really allow and account for the idea that the battlefield is not symmetrical, that it is a player within, and that the choice of deployment edge or territory is absolutely a critical consideration and one that players will vie over just as much as they will for a priority mission objective or a secondary, or even maybe the advantage that they feel like they need in order to maximize on it. So everything about all of the changes that we talked about, right? It's all about adding that interactivity, those tactical and strategic considerations, making the game feel alive. Speaking of making the game feel more exciting and alive, we do have a couple of core rules changes. We don't have slides for these. We're just going to discuss them. But these are important ones to bring up. So first and foremost, Star Wars has always been about, Star Wars Legion especially is about capturing the idea of these big battles, these cool engagements, all this stuff. The game has been around, as we said, for 6 years now. Players have been with it for that entire time, growing their collections, building their armies. It was really starting to show that the 800 point level was it was an artificial ceiling that was stymieing some really cool choice from players. It was forcing less interesting list builds, and it also was just not allowing the game to really live its full best life and live that kind of narrative on the table that we want to see of these big Star Wars legions, right? The name of the game is Legion. We want to see legions of troops on the table. So we've increased the game size with the changes to the mission objectives, with the changes to cover, which we're going to talk about next. And of course, with deployment and all of this, we were able to increase the game size to 1,000 points, which is it's a moderate change, right? It's not like we went to 1,600; that'd have been crazy. But those 200 points really open up a lot of options, from upgrades to different units, to adding maybe a couple of support units,
To taking
taking more characters.
112.
112.
They had to know about that yet.
I think of the increase in the points change is that I remember back to when we were working on Asajj Ventress, and we're like, all right, we have this cool character. Thematically, she should do things with Count Dooku. Well, when you take her and Count Dooku in the same army, that approaches very quickly half your total army points, or a third.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things about this, this extra 200 points is it gives you just enough room to, if you want to have two, kind of expensive characters, you can do that. Or if you want to take some more expensive toys to add some spice to your army,
and you don't end up at like
that.
7
You have
activations.
tanks
and
and the
you're
rest
not
of the
you're not
army,
constrained, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not giving up. You can still have the core of your army and some of the toys you want, but now have room to do that and not have to give things up.
I think the Asajj Dooku thing is a really important bit, right? One of the consistent things that we see from all the players, whenever they have discussions about things they wish they're dreaming about will come to the game, or when we ask directly, like, what are the things that you want to see? Star Wars is about the characters, right? Legion is an army game, and therefore the units and the army itself is the primary point. Seeing those iconic characters on the table, seeing them work together like we do see, in the Clone Wars shows, in the big battles at Endor, being able to take multiples of the original trilogy characters together, that's super important. But with 800 points, it's not very realistic to be able to do that and see a lot of success, right? At the point that you're playing all of the original trilogy heroes together in one list, you're kind of playing a for funsies. You shouldn't expect to go and do super well with it because you're just lacking tools based on the points limitation.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway from this is the goal was to open, one, increase the spectacle of the game, but two, to open up avenues for players to kind of build the armies they want. Whereas before, like, oh, I really want to do this, but that may not be as viable as I want because I'm constrained by the point cost limit. So we really wanted to open up avenues for players to play the armies with the play style or the flavor or the selection of units that they wanted.
Yeah. And the other big part of the spectacle and kind of increasing the scope and really leaning into the idea that this is Star Wars Legion and we should see legions is that you're going to notice as we dive into the rebalances that there's a brand new upgrade for most of the core units. In fact, I think all of the core units got this in this group of rebalances. I think. No? Did we not do one? It doesn't matter. Most of them got it. I'll say 90% because who's going to actually do the percentage? It's fine.
Ben will.
Somebody will now.
Somebody will now. They all have a brand new upgrade which allows them to effectively double their unit size. So if your maximum was 6, it's now typically 10. If you happen to be a B1 or an Ewok unit, it's now 14. So these open up really cool tactical options, especially when combined with all the things we've talked about with missions. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get to it, but that is another big thing. Now,
That's going to lead us straight into cover.
all of this is only possible by probably one of the most significant core rules changes, which is the change to cover. And I'm going to let all of the math folks talk about cover, line of sight, and why that half-inch range tool is going to get used all the time in your games.
Yeah, so the big changes to cover are that it's consistent based off of what the size of your unit is. It doesn't matter if you're firing with 1 B1 or 13 clones.
It's an awful lot of
11
clones.
clones. The cover's going to affect you the same. So we changed to static from a static system where light cover blocks 1, heavy cover blocks 2, to rolling a die for each hit result on the attack rolls.
And very specifically, not crit results.
Not
Crit
crit.
results still
get
ignore
through.
cover.
Yeah.
Right.
So effectively, instead of cover just being a flat modifier to the number of hits, it is now a randomized roll.
Yeah, you're rolling 1 white die, and for light cover, you only get 1 of the results, and for heavy cover, you get 2 of the results on the white die. Yep. So.
And then whatever you have left over, you will then have to make saving throws as normal, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And there's a bunch of explanation in the article that's going up at the end of this for why we've done this, the math behind it, all sorts of implications of it. It's a huge portion of the article.
I think,
So
yeah.
if you want to get into the math portion of it, that's what's for you.
The big ones to hit, right, are that one of the major things this change does is that it dramatically affects the range at which dice pools become either meaningless or so effective that there's no real reason to roll, right? So the predetermined nature of how the math works out dramatically changes. It also creates a more engaging and exciting system, right?
Whenever you flip your token over, you can always do something.
Correct.
with that unit.
And I think the vast majority of players, right? There are always going to be players who just love predictability. But the vast majority of us that come here, we play dice games because we want to see the spikes, right? We want to see the amazing outcome where you roll 15 white dice and somehow you hit blocks on all of them with your light cover from a bush.
It happens every time we
And-
playtest, and I hate it.
And you
I
also want
cannot
to
make
see
a cover save to save
You
my
also
life.
want to see the result where
Good at
like
winning these
you
games.
just need to roll 2 results on your white defense dice to maybe hold out, and you roll nothing, right? So adding that unpredictability, it brings the chaos of battle. It brings the unknown of battle to the game, and it also means that every unit gets to compete throughout the entire course of the game. Eliminating 2 members of a unit to reduce their dice pool to effectively what was mathematically meaningless.
Mostly
now
irrelevant,
now doesn't necessarily happen
As
because
a
those
com-
players can do that. Of course, there's that element of luck.
As a consequence of that, even small units being dangerous, the game is overall more dangerous.
It is more
Right.
lethal. Yeah.
Right, more lethal because those small units being able to participate still means
Well,
that
it's huge, right?
it cut out a large portion of the attacks of the game, and so this units just keep activating, and get to do something on their activation much more often.
And how you determine if you're in cover or not, you're going to use that new half range tool,
Which 3 inches.
which is 3 inches, which will be included with the files. That are
There's a
going
little
up
print
into
play
this
cut
panel.
out,
Yep.
or you can make your own.
Make your own 3-inch widget as well.
Um,
And I think this was, the 3-inch. So this is one of the things that was most exciting about going back into this. We did the full core rules update,
Yeah.
and we affected how cover and line of sight worked, and we did it in order to try to streamline the process. But one of the after effects of that was the fact that without a way to measure accurate ranges to terrain that you might be taking cover against, it was very easy on a Legion table, if it was set up properly, to always have cover. And that was not necessarily an ideal, but we were willing to accept it for what it brought in the other ways.
it wasn't time to add the half range
Correct.
tool yet, right?
But by adding the half tool, not only are we now able to measure a lot of different things to scenario setup to contesting ranges, not being base to base anymore, securing ranges, we also have a way in which to make cover meaningful, but also not omnipresent, right? So that there is more tactical consideration in movement and placement and all of these things. And so it was a really huge addition to the game, and the system that we're excited to finally be bringing in and goes along with this cover thing. And the one thing I do want to touch is we talked about how smaller units are now more effective. And can continue to participate. But I think the flip side that we also have to recognize with
Yes.
the cover system
Yes.
is that,
Larger units are not.
In original, as we started talking about how are these larger units going to function within
Right.
Legion, it was very quickly apparent that they just blew out the game because they could overcome that static cover of
Very easily.
two negated hits. Now, because your cover save is effectively equal to the number of hits you suffer, those bigger dice pools have more variance.
Well, it's one clone trooper is just as lethal if there's one clone trooper or as if there's 10, right? So combining dice pools into large buckets is no longer just the sole winning strategy for destroying units quickly, right?
But there's still some sort of like these linear defenses, like in low
for
profile
sure.
and armor,
And
still.
dodge tokens and
Right?
things like
Yes.
that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
But
So-
getting rid of that floor really helps smaller dice pools
feel more relevant.
feel
have
more
a
relevant.
target where they can do something.
Yeah, where they can
yes.
do something besides just put a suppression token on
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
The amount again, the amount that the band went from here of dice pool effectiveness to like here was huge, and those impacts will be felt throughout all of the new development that you're going to be seeing, new units as they come out. The ability to make scenarios that have interesting layouts and deployments, to have iterative scoring. So much of it was based on the idea of breaking out of kind of that restriction, that artificial restriction put into place by heavy cover or cover in general, just being a flat, predictable value, and instead turning it back into something that can be very powerful. It can lift you up, or it can let you fall to the ground.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject of like cover and durability, one of the reasons why going back to the bigger units for a second, one of the reasons we decided to do that was a lot of the missions have objectives that are more centrally located, and the fact that we now score progressively instead of at the end of the game or on certain rounds means that units have to stand in a place where they can get threatened a lot more. Right, and so with the previous cover system, we were seeing that it was hard to either dislodge units or units were no longer effective. So these large units kind of give units their ability to kind of sit out on a point and take shots and still stay in the fight. But then you're spending more points on it, right? You're putting more eggs in one, significantly more points. You're putting more eggs in one basket, right? And because these smaller dice pools are now more relevant, you have to ask the question like, all right, do I want one big unit that can take a few hits before it goes down, or do I want to take a few smaller units, right? Because those dice pools are more relevant now with the cover change.
And I can spread out.
I can spread out more. It gives me advantage in deployment, because I have more units and I can decide when to
absolutely
commit.
Important to note, right? A full-size unit of 10 still only counts as one unit for
Correct.
contesting, whereas two smaller units,
Yep.
which are effectively the same point cost of that, depending on the units and upgrades and stuff, wind up counting for two. And I think that's the last little point to make about all of this, is that as we looked at this, the goal wasn't to move the game into everything being a 10 unit core,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? A 10 trooper core. The goal was to create something that was a interesting and fun option, and largely to see players identify with both, right? And I think one of the really great things is and again, this is a 3-year process of testing these things, reiterating and all of this. It's effectively what we've been doing secretly behind the scenes, not saying anything for so long as our like little inside started to burst. It's not a win if they're useless, right? If they're just cute and you look at them and you're like, well, I could take 10, but why would I ever do that? That's silly. It wasn't a win if it was, well, the only way to play the game is to take 10. It was only a win if it was, there are times where I want to take a full-size unit over 2 smaller units. There's times where I want to take 2 smaller units over a full-size unit. And a lot of the time I want to have a mix of both.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maximizing heavy weapons is another reason why you'd want the smaller units, because you still only get one heavy weapon.
There's just a lot more choice.
There's a
in
lot of choices.
choosing your core units in particular.
And
Yeah.
I think the other thing that was really interesting about that is going back to how we talked about each scenario building and kind of focusing around different list builds or asking different questions. Where you will find yourself looking at those options between a full-size core unit and a min-size core unit somewhat comes down to what 3 cards you're putting into your primary objective
Absolutely.
deck
Yeah.
and what you want to pull out
Who
of
your
that.
commander is,
Okay, with that said, we have a bazillion
we gotta go.
rebalance cards to go into. So we're going to look at the Rebel Troopers first. So the Rebel Troopers are going to be the first rebalance card. So one, you can see the amazing new graphic design that Ryan Ritter and the graphic design team put together. I love this new look.
It's so cool.
You're going to notice that all keywords are just now keywords. There is no reminder text. One, that makes localization much more achievable and cleaner, but also one of the things with the reminder text is we didn't always have room to put the full rules on the card,
Correct.
which meant that new players would look at the reminder text, think it was the full rules
Or it could
text, get very
change.
confused. It could change. This just makes the whole system of referencing things cleaner and more accurate. I love the fact that we get to get Preston's amazing art in full scale on the back of the card now.
Absolutely.
It turns them into a very trading card look when you have them in your binder. So just incredible work all around. Kudos to all of the folks who went in and made these new cards. this new design just
These are
sing.
stunning.
Just sing.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Rebel Troopers real quick.
So I think before we talk about Rebel Troopers,
Ah!
we gotta back up a second.
We gotta go!
I'm gonna back this car up for a second. We're gonna, one of the things we talked about is we really want to lean into each of the factions having their own identity.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Empire having their own identity, Rebels, Separatists. And so as part of that, we redid all of the core units in the game as part of that aim to.
Or we looked at every core
Or
unit
we
in
looked
the
at every
game.
core unit, right?
Yeah.
And tweak them in some way to further play into not only that faction identity, but to also ensure that each core unit had a role in the army,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah,
they,
yes.
some more specialized than others, depending on what the unit is, but that, you have a role for each different kind of core unit, and that role kind of dovetails into the greater faction identity.
Rebel
All right,
Troopers.
let's
Now
go.
we're going.
Rebel Troopers.
Beautiful.
Speaking of faction identity, one of the things about Rebels, they're dodgy, they're nimble, they're hard to pin down, they kind of fold once you apply any pressure to them. Agile 1 and nimble.
Yep. So nimble, what they had before. Agile 1, every time they move, they get a dodge.
Yeah, so we really needed a unit for Rebels that could move up the table, and really liked getting next to objectives, right? Like this was, so Rebel Troopers getting Agile means that they can move twice in round 1, get 2 dodge tokens. They're quite a bit safer than any other unit that's deploying off the side that's not getting benefits like that. So they are your core of the army that can go and do objectives for you.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk a little bit about the different roles of each of these units. This is sort of the generalist core
Yeah.
unit for Rebels.
But
right?
leans into that faction identity of being mobile and
Absolutely.
dodgy, but maybe not as durable as.
And then really quick, we're going to jump and look at the new upgrade cards. So the upgrade card style has completely changed as well. They've gone to full LCG style cards to provide more text room. And of course, just be a little easier to organize since you don't need to manage 2 different types of cards. This is effectively how all of the
Squad
squad
upgrades.
upgrade cards look for adding those additional troopers to the normal units. So you'll see here, add 5 Rebel Trooper miniatures.
Indomitable lets you remove a little extra suppression. You get a little extra cohesion range.
Cohesion is now measured with range tools. I would like to point
Range
out.
tools,
So we get
yes.
a half range instead of the short.
move.
And this is range 1, so you can utilize several pieces of terrain. And then it can be come out of transports because there are too many of them.
And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the icon, the very first of his kind in Legion, Luke Skywalker, hero of the rebellion. He's got quite the glow up here. So if we want to really quickly just kind of go over some of the larger design beats on what we were looking to do with this version of Luke.
Yeah, so Luke has a whole charge in with a lightsaber theme that is very, very, very good. He's very, very good at, but he's still learning the ropes and still deciding exactly what he wants to do. So he has some other options for whenever it's not good to commit. So he has his blaster, which has long shot now, so he can aim and shoot at range 3 if it's too dangerous for him to commit. And he has Inspire 2 now to keep his army in line.
He's the hero of the rebellion.
He's the hero of the rebellion.
he
They
gets-
look up to him
Yeah.
like a big brother. Let's talk real quick about his points.
Yep.
Because this is going to be a trend throughout all of the Force users now, that you're going to notice some significant point reductions. There's one specific reason about that, and that's for a card we don't have, but it's called Force Push.
Yep.
Who wants to walk us through that?
There's been a significant increase in the point cost of Force Push because Force Push is incredibly powerful. It is even more powerful when you start introducing scenario play. It allows you to move around enemy troops. There's a million different tricks you can do with it, all that kind of stuff. So we found that Force Push existing as an upgrade was massively inflating the cost of a lot of these Force user characters. So by transferring the points from the characters to Force Push, we can now have versions of these characters that cost significantly less points that do not have Force Push, that allow you to take a lot more things in your
So you
army.
get this Luke Skywalker, which has a ton of options, can still take burst of speed.
Yeah, he can still take all the other force powers.
Yeah.
And I think that opens up a lot of space for these Force users. Of your first option is not necessarily going to be, oh, okay, I'm going to put Force Push on them, right? It opens up a lot of play styles for these characters now that they're at a lower price point.
You were paying as we discovered, you were paying an invisible tax for some of the upgrades that you could take because those upgrades were so potent, but they were deflated in price because it was just assumed in some ways that you would take them. In order to obviously open up list building and create more choice, obviously moving that, and which we did in a couple of other situations as well, but not as significant as Force Push, was a huge deal. Let's go to Leia Organa. which is the next refresh card that we have to show.
So Leia's a bit of a mix between commanding the army, which she is very good at, and shooting. So she can be very active with getting dodge tokens with take cover, giving those out to multiple units and herself, and with Exemplar on her.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute.
That's the big one.
So Exemplar we sort of view that as a very much a commander ability, right? So this is them leading their troops. This is them giving them tactical advice. This is them doing those things. So you're going to see this pop up a lot. And this is going to pop up on the characters that are not normally excellent combat pieces, that are more that stand back and don't fight, which Leia obviously here is a very capable piece with a sharpshooter 2, 3 red dice on a range attack, all that kind of stuff, right? Fantastic in that. So this one is maybe not the best example of
Well,
that.
no, I think it is actually, because what Exemplar does that's kind of subtle versus, just the normal take cover is take cover, it really ties, that handing out tokens to her activation. So now when she goes in the round is very timing dependent. Exemplar, frees it up to, okay, I can hand some tokens out, but I can keep some of myself, for my friends around me to use. Frees up her actions a bit more, so she can contribute in other ways, like moving or attacking.
And take cover in those other type rules that gave out dodge tokens really just said, hey, shoot the other unit, right? Whereas Exemplar, you take cover, you give it to Leia, she can get her dodge tokens, and now you can't shoot anyone near Leia, so you have to interact with this rule that's giving
It's
out
a great
these
way to
dodge tokens,
facilitate
right?
the support, giving out support just in time.
Yeah. Notably, take cover, spotter, bolster, and those other token handout actions have now been
Range
increased to
2.
range 2. So again, this is to open up, some play patterns for these characters so that they can do things other than, just move in their token handout action.
There were some updates to Exemplar as well, so it doesn't work entirely exactly as it did before, I believe.
A little bit.
So make sure to check that out as well.
All right, let's jump to the Rebel Officer. I think the big takeaway here is another addition of Exemplar in order to kind of maximize the idea that this guy is just all about leading people.
Basically,
He
just
doesn't-
a leader.
He just yells orders and people do it, and
Yep.
they love it. Or
We're
they
going to see
don't.
this theme through all of the factions.
a lot of the commanders.
Let's go to everyone's favorite droid boy, R2-D2.
Just a little guy.
Just a little guy with a secret mission.
He gets secret mission. He gets to sneak in with Infiltrate and Inconspicuous and try to get across the board with his speed 1, which he can very capably.
He's free. He's not grounded anymore.
So,
So,
you want to talk
yeah.
really quick about the change to Infiltrate and what that means?
So Infiltrate, whenever you so you start off the board still, but the first time you activate in the game, you place yourself within the territory instead of deploying off of the board edge. So that gets them 9 inches up the table to anywhere inside of your territory, mostly.
So it's super flexible.
Right.
And I think another big hit here is that Secret Mission used to be a potential 33% victory point swing.
Yeah, now it's 1 in 12.
Now it's 112,
Yeah.
1 6.
It's kind of like a tertiary objective.
Yeah, it's still very good and can be majorly impactful to winning the game, but it doesn't skew the overall win experience like it had before when there were many fewer victory points on the table.
R2-D2 is a great way to break ties, basically, break stalemates.
Bounty has also had a similar adjustment to just being 1 victory point.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the another core unit for the Rebels, which is Fleet Troopers. Charge, I think, is the big note here.
Yeah. These are my boys. They also got a melee profile on their pistol. So they are very, very deadly and still very, very fragile. So you have to hide them and ambush people with them. They are quite, a great ambush unit.
And I think comparing them to Rebel Troopers, right? Rebel Troopers had the agile, they had the nimble, they can get up the table, they can be much more durable. These Fleet Troopers are a lot more aggressive in terms of the blaster pistols with charge.
Not as durable.
Certainly not as durable. So that's sort of the main difference between those two core units, right? Is that they're both moving up the table, and they both can move up the table. But the Fleet Troopers are not going to be hanging out for too long, and hopefully your Rebel Troopers will be hanging out for a little longer.
You got to be really crafty.
They're not here for a long time.
You got to be really crafty if you're going to get that full, 10-person Fleet Trooper unit.
20 dice shot or
20
something.
dice attack. You got to be careful.
And then the final core, and of course, just like the Rebel Troopers and everything else, you can obviously jump this unit up to the full 10 Trooper squad. Rebel Veterans are going to be the next one we're going to look at. This kind of rounds out the 3 core choices for Rebels. Prepared positions. Yeah. So let's discuss. Infiltrate says that you start off the board. When you get your order to activate, you place yourself anywhere in the territory.
Prepared
positions is?
You deploy before the game starts, and you start with a dodge token. So this is you're in a sort of fixed stationary position at the beginning.
You're dug in.
And you're dug in. And these guys are excellent at digging in with low profile, digging in. So they are your kind of entrenched rebel troops.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the speed is much
one
slower
here,
now.
right?
Yes,
Is the big one.
They're very much the rule of like, all right, I am going to have these guys defending, my side of the battlefield and my points, and they're going to use their range to project and help the rest of the army advance that way. But they themselves are probably not going to get across the battlefield.
And of course, the emplacement trooper coordinate is just lovely.
Which leads us to our next
speaking
card.
of-
Speaking of,
1.4 FD laser cannon team, please.
yeah. So this unit also got prepared position, so you kind of get to dictate, those fire zones and control the board, sections of the board before your opponent moves on, right? So you can
Right.
threaten, and play into that deployment game. All right, well, do I really want to commit a unit over here, knowing that I've got, a laser cannon team staring me down that might have an order because there might be a rebel veteran unit next to it.
Having the fixed, so having the objectives, know where all the objectives are before, you know where units are going to go. So being stationary, you can get around it and place them in range 5 to threaten multiple objectives.
You can kind of shut lanes down with them too.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk really quick. We're going to look at the Rebel Commando strike team. However, this is going to be a kind of a discussion of strike teams in general, because strike teams have had a pretty distinct change from how they work within Army construction.
Yeah, the main rule is detachment. So you need to take one of the full units of Rebel Commandos in order to take a strike team. So they come paired, and that detachment also makes it so they don't fill out the maximum rank
requirement
for special forces. So you can have 3 full units of Rebel Commandos
And 3 strike teams.
strike teams. Yes.
And remember, when assessing strike teams at the moment, smaller dice pools, much better than they used to be.
Yeah, the sniper teams especially we
They're
saw be very
excellent.
effective with the changes to cover. You're no longer just plinking one person with Pierce, right?
We made points changes there. Yes, the snipers are crazy.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the ATRT. This is going to lead into a larger discussion about vehicles. So remember, as we discussed, vehicles can now score. So they can contest, they can secure objectives, so they're just as effective at that as any other core unit or anything like that. But armor here, I think, is the discussion to have, because it's going to be a recurring theme for all of the armored units going forward.
Yeah, so there is no kind of full armor left in the game anymore. Armor is now just the armor X keyword, so every vehicle will have a different numerical armor value. And part of the reason that we did this was because vehicles score now, we found through playtests that you could get in situations where there would be one vehicle or maybe multiple vehicles for some of the smaller vehicles that would kind of hang out on points, and it was very, very difficult to dislodge them.
We want people to be able to interact with them.
And we want people to be able to interact with them. So in the case of the ATRT, that means it went from full armor to armor 2, but then it got a little bit of a defensive buff
And
with that
the
defense
surging.
surge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love the parity this brings, right? The ATRT is the armor 2. The dude on top who's just hanging out, that guy's got a white surging
He's
save.
he's
So
a
you
rebel
gotta-
with a white
Yeah.
surging save.
It brings parity of save into the faction.
Let's go ahead and look at the Rebels' best hoopty, the X-33 Landspeeder. So this lost its transport for 1. Of course, has armor 2. And these are super awesome mobile weapons platforms now. Like
These things
I
are
love running all of
incredible.
these things.
Yeah.
They are incredible. Yes, getting to objectives and defeating everything there, destroying everything there is incredible with these guys. Being able to score and being fast and being relatively durable with cover and armor, and the option for cover 2.
Well, and a lot of their dice pools can be somewhat on the smaller side, but now because of the cover change, those dice pools are suddenly very relevant. Whereas before, maybe you'd have to pool all of them together into a single attack. So, really enjoy playing with these. Yeah, they're kind of a mobile gun platform now rather than a taxi service for operative Luke or whoever.
But now let's talk about transport. Tim.
Yes.
The
Yes.
AA5.
AA5.
please. So transport, we'll give you the short version,
Yeah.
and you can go read the full version.
Once per game at the beginning of the game, before deploying any units, you just decide if a unit is in the transport, and whenever the transport deploys, that unit deploys from that transport.
A core special forces.
A core special forces unit. Yes. So that gets the unit onto the table in round 1, and
Significantly
then
farther forward than it normally would.
right, and then you can't use the transport again. So this is like another way of deploying a special form of deployment.
It also gives
And-
the unit an order in round
Yes.
1.
It gives the unit an order so that you
have
don't
to
mess up
activate
the
it
order. Yes. yeah, the order of activating them. Yeah.
I really like my Death Troopers hopping out of the Gav with their order ready to go and use the grenade launcher. It's quite fun. And like the other vehicles, the A5 has switched from having full armor to armor 5.
And has plenty of customization in terms of what it wants to do with its upgrade cards. All right, let's jump into the Empire rebalance units that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start off with General Veers.
Yeah,
So another exemplar.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've tried to do with these character updates is really make like, all right, you know, we're going to pick to do this, like Luke Skywalker at this moment in time, what's the best version of that Luke that we can make? And so General Veers is a great example of that philosophy, right? Like he's known as the vehicle guy for Empire, right? He leads the ground assault with Blizzard Force on Echo Base. So we gave him Guidance Ground Vehicle to really cement his spot as the vehicle commander for
Guidancing
Empire.
and ATST to have it stand by is
Yeah,
incredible.
is great. He's got Spotter and Exemplar to have kind of the same, you know, economy with Leia. His range attack has gotten a little bit better now that he can contribute more. You know, his action economy is freed up a little bit. Keep going to the next guy.
Now let's look at the Imperial Officer. So again, we're going to see, similar to the Rebel Officer, Exemplar, we have Spotter 1.
This gives you this kind of minimal
Inspire.
commander. Yeah.
So moving on to the next one, Director Krennic. So Krennic himself also got quite a few touches, and we're not really showing all of them, but it is important to note that many of the command cards around these characters were also updated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there's anything specific we want to call out on Krennic here, or if we just want to jump to Annihilation
Yeah,
Looms.
he got Exemplar and one of his command cards changed.
Yep, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at Annihilation Looms.
So yeah, the design of the command cards has been changed, and we had to change this one because of the change from 6 to 5 rounds. The old command card did not work, so now it has been adjusted to rounds. The extra suppression is rounds 4 and 5.
Annihilation Looms is super fun on Bring Them to Hill.
It is
just
super
gives,
fun.
It gives both players all the points. It's just everybody has points.
I hadn't realized that.
It's
great.
quite fun.
So let's take a look at the bread and butter core unit of Imperial armies, which is Stormtroopers. Stormtroopers, no real changes except for a points decrease. But obviously the standard utility troop of Empire. They're able
those
to
red
do
saves are
everything
still
not
doing
specifically
work,
well.
and now they're even more efficient. They lost a little bit on their melee attacks in order to get that extra efficiency, and so the Empire troops are all about extra efficiency.
I mean, they did get that sweet art.
Yeah. That's what they're paying their points for. Look at that.
And then we're going to look at the Blizzard Force Stormtrooper Heavy Response unit card really quick.
Same
Again,
idea, right?
Yeah,
Cheaper,
same idea.
yep.
A little bit cheaper. Their melee attack got degraded a little bit to white dice instead of a black die.
Yep.
And so now that we've looked at the baseline core unit for Empire, let's take a look at the Snowtroopers first as their other core option.
So I really like these guys. The deployment changes have been really interesting to them, and especially the change to the objectives being placed on the center line. They are speed 1 and have steady, but because a lot of the scenarios happen kind of in that middle line, if you take a full squad with the flamethrower, that's a very good offensive push in and take the points unit that is a lot of fun.
So they can move a little further in round 1 too.
Yeah.
They can move 2 times, then shoot, which is further than the rest of the core unit. So usually you're getting shots with these guys on round 1, which is a big change.
And talking about their upgrade cards, we'll take a look at the Flame Trooper.
Yeah, so some changes here that are also reflected on other weapons of similar types across the game is the flamethrower on the Flame Trooper now is also a melee weapon. And the Ion, the
Sounds
T7
dangerous.
Ion rifle now no longer exhausts. That's kind of a change that we made across the board for, I think, most if not all the Ion weapons.
It's all of them, yeah.
Yeah, where they no longer exhaust and they gain critical 1.
And
On a lot of them.
Ion's a little less punishing now as well, so you don't automatically lose an action for each Ion token. Instead, you roll for your Ion tokens to see if you're going to lose an action whenever you activate. So we were able to make the Ion weapons a lot more generalist and useful in more places by pulling that back a little bit.
And then the third core unit, which it kind of fulfills the role of the objective holder, right, are the Shore Troopers as the garrison force. So you can see all the stuff here.
Yeah, and much like the Rebel veterans, these units are the Shore Troopers are the defensive archetype for the Empire, right? They are not very mobile. They've been degraded to speed 1. but they are more about like holding your side of the battlefield and holding your points and kind of interacting via range. So you notice their E-22s have got long shots.
That's a very saucy long shot.
Yes.
you got there.
Right.
It is a
Getting
very
range,
saucy long
range
shot.
4 on your core troopers means that you can gun line pretty hard with these guys.
Notably, they did lose target. So they have to get that aim token somehow through either one of their own actions or from a friend. And they also gain prepared positions to start the game on the battlefield and kind of dictate enemy deployment a little bit, affect that in certain ways.
All right. Well, to be fair, we've talked about a lot of very exciting things,
Okay.
but all of it was only for one reason and one
Oh,
reason
yeah.
only, and that was to make the E-Web range 4.
Yeah,
That's true.
you asked, we listened.
The UAB at
That's
range
been
4
done.
is a very, very impressive
That's
gun.
been done for so long, and then all the chats are always like, "E-Web range 4 win." I'm like, I can't tell them.
You cannot.
I can't tell them.
That is one of the things about doing a holistic refresh and doing everything all at once, so it all makes sense with each other.
Range 4, Impact 1,
range
very,
4.
very useful.
Another one that's great on that scenario. Oh Lord, I forgot the name of
Intercept
it.
the singles,
bunker
bunker
No,
assault.
the
Breakthrough.
L. The L.
It's good in a lot of
Breakthrough.
scenarios.
It is good in a
It's
lot
good
of
in a lot.
scenarios.
It's good in a lot,
Putting it
yeah.
in the center and then just being like, which side are you going to come in
Yeah,
on? I'm going
covering
to
the
shoot you either
objectives,
way. Deal with it. So the E-Web
With
finally
prepared position.
getting the
Yeah.
range it always deserved. And then let's go into the Dark Troopers.
Which is
So-
just an armor thing here as well.
Yeah, they've
right?
been reduced to armor 3 from armor 5.
So still very durable, still very strong, but not just full armor.
increases the interactivity against them.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Doesn't necessarily punish as heavily if you don't have a lot of impact in your force.
Yeah.
For sure. And overall, just a strong change, I think, for keeping this unit close to its original design, but a lot more interesting and fun
They're
to
still
play
very, very
against.
dominant. Yeah. Getting to activate twice is a hell of a drug.
Let's. Goodness. All right. Let's take a look at the TX-225 Occupier tank. This one has a couple of changes as well.
Yeah, so like all the other vehicles, it's gone from just armor to armor 5. Transport has been slightly reworked. I think now's a good time to bring up that notch-based movement on vehicles has been changed a little bit, and that now you get a free pivot, 90-degree pivot
Right, at
when
the
you get
beginning
the
of
start
your
of your
move, you
move
get a free
action.
pivot. So with
Yeah.
reposition, they were able to make 2 pivots.
So yeah, and so it opens up flexibility a little bit, and
So
it makes it
that lets
easier to
these
move around
longer
the battlefield.
bases maneuver around. You can maneuver around round buildings. Yeah, I love playing these longer vehicles, and they are much more user friendly now.
Next up,
We have the
we've got
ATST.
TSD. It's got some new awesome art, but the only change here is going to armor 5.
Getting a little cheaper.
No, don't you undersell this art. That is a change.
You know how much I love ATSTs? I made a battle force so you could have 3 of them. That's how much I like them. Woo!
That's
Yeah,
true.
Speaking
There.
of that battle force,
Speaking of
Major
that battle
Marquand,
force,
also
Segway.
only real change here, armor 5.
yeah, these things are quite efficient for their shooting now with the points decrease.
And last but not least in the Empire, we have the LAT Patrol Transport.
Just changes here to that full armor going to armor 5. Transport was tweaked, and the laser cannon's got a little bit of an offensive boost due to the transport change.
And
Also has
hashtag double ordnance.
Double ordnance.
Double missile, double happy.
So you get to fire with your Arsenal 2 every round with the cycling ammunition. It's very, very fun play pattern.
Right.
All right, so we've finished with our look at the rebalances for the Empire. We're going to talk about now the Galactic Republic. I think it's really important to discuss that you're going to see quite a few changes here. And just in terms of the approach to the faction, adjusting for fire support and all these other things, making sure that the Galactic Republic had room to be able to expand, to function within the new game system, to not be oppressive, but also to maintain its faction identity and be interesting. So one of those big things is that Exemplar. You're not going to see that on our next card, which is Padme Amidala. You want to give a quick kind of recap as to how things have adjusted around the fact that this faction really doesn't need Exemplar to be able to do what it does, because everyone has Exemplar, more or less.
Yeah, pretty much the clone trooper rule has become Exemplar.
So yeah,
but the new version of Exemplar, right?
Whenever you add tokens to a clone trooper, they can share them at range 2 now. So it's almost like they all have it. Yes.
Yeah. So the leaders, Anakin and Padme, they don't need it anymore. That also does a couple things. One, it lets them be a lot more active in the battle, right? They're no longer hanging out making tokens. They're not doing those kind of things. Anakin has had some significant updates. It's going to make him very exciting, I hope.
Padme moves around a lot with agile and nimble, generating a dodge token and incentivizing you to move basically every round.
So the operatives and the commanders inside of the Galactic Republic are now much more active combatants rather than hanging out, making tokens and supporting the clones. And that let us get the theme of the Galactic Republic being the clones supporting the clones. Right? So that was really what we were going for with all of these changes, was that the clones are the ones helping each other and not necessarily these things. Now, obviously, like your clone commanders and stuff, they're going to get all sorts of fancy things that are not exemplar because they basically have exemplar. So, yeah. But
let's go ahead and take a look at Diplomatic Cover, which is an updated Padme Amidala command card.
Yeah, so it's still granting infiltrate with a divulge, and if you've divulged it, grant secret mission. So she's very good at getting across the table and scoring. Get you that extra victory point now. If you don't need her to stand back and support the clones, right? So she's got a little bit of a split play style that this card kind of describes.
And then probably the most iconic member of the Galactic Republic, Anakin Skywalker, effectively a complete rebuild.
yes.
In almost every way. Just looking at what the character, how the character was, what he needed to do to be useful in the faction to kind of fulfill the Anakin Skywalker dream. A lot of changes here.
So he starts off very aggressive. Starting in round one, you can immediately start moving him towards the enemy forces to dive in. He's just a maximum aggression Jedi.
I don't think we're going to go through it, but the Tempted keyword is definitely something everybody should go read because it is completely different.
Very
now.
different.
Completely changed. And in addition to being completely changed, his command cards have entirely been updated and rebalanced as well to reflect the Anakin Skywalker as the general of the Republic. So if we want to dive into those, important to note, there's no flaw card here because he no longer has a flaw card. So that's been completely removed from his overall kit, as we felt like it was more of a negative than a positive in terms of what it was adding to this character and the fantasy of being able to put him in your army and play with him.
So this is where the fun begins, giving Anakin prepared position, and a free action jump just really gets him across the table and makes it so slinging him at your enemy is a very good playstyle for him. You underestimate my power, gets some extra hitting power versus already activated units, and General Skywalker gives him and his army aim tokens. So he's just really all about punching you directly.
He's very aggressive.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, the man who taught him everything he clearly didn't learn, Obi-Wan Kenobi,
is very not about punching you in the
definitely
face.
the most offensive, right? He Saresu Mastery gives him rerolls versus on his defense die versus range attacks.
Yeah, so that's been updated.
Yep.
And let's also talk about Deflect here.
Yeah. So Deflect is always active. You don't have to pay you don't have to spend a dodge token for Deflect to be active, and you always have Surge to block. So that is makes it so the Jedi can move around quite freely, especially Obi-Wan, and in exchange for being always on, Deflect can only do 1 wound back if he rolls 1 surge. Yeah. Saresu you can also use to reroll on Guardian by paying a dodge token. Yeah.
That's spicy.
He's here for his homies.
All right, so exciting stuff with the characters. Now let's talk about the core options for Galactic Republic. Telling you if you want to come back to us for a second before we jump to the card, so we can kind of set things up for what people are going to see. One of the big things as we were looking at the Galactic Republic, right? We've talked a little bit in other podcasts and interviews about faction identity, the idea that the Galactic Republic is the elite army. They have the best training, they have the best equipment, but they're not very numerous, right? They are specialists and designed to be the best of the best. When looking at the core options between Phase 1 and Phase 2, what we really saw was not a lot of difference, right? And where we went through our different iterations was to say, let's get rid of the idea that Phase 1 and Phase 2 is the difference between a clone. And instead, let's create a clone trooper infantry unit that effectively is the most customizable unit it can be. And this led to a brand new upgrade, which we'll talk about. And you'll see on the card that only the clone trooper infantry units, the clone troopers in general, get to take, or you'll see in the Galactic Republic so far. And this leads to basically a 1 core choice that is flexible and customizable in a way that allows it to fill all the different roles that you've seen through the other factions. Now, don't despair if you're like, I don't just want to see one clone trooper unit, I want others. If you watch the roadmap tomorrow, we're going to be showing off one of the new core units that's coming to Galactic Republic, and that also adds some exciting options and opportunities to everything. But the overall design goal and where we landed with this change and this rebalance, I think really did hit the idea that the clones can be customized and they are trained enough to fill any battlefield role they need to, and they have access to that equipment to do it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the card. So Clone Trooper Infantry.
They effectively get a lot of the roles that the Phase 2 clones were getting for a slightly cheaper price tag with the removal of fire support. So they're a very efficient core unit for what you get now, which is that Courage 2 and that Reliable for token sharing and keeping the whole army going and supporting each other.
Yeah, so once again, the theme is the clones help the clones. So Reliable gives you that surge token.
And you look at that upgrade bar to the left, that is the,
That's the
leader,
upgrade.
heavy weapon, personnel, training, gear, and grenade.
So you can do it all.
That
a lot of
top one
options.
is the new one that we were talking about, which is the leader
squad
upgrade.
leader, yeah.
And so let's take a look at what that upgrade kind of looks like with our boy from the 212, Boyle, or Clone Medic Tony. Wow, why would you do that to me? Come on, man! Come on! That's just cold-blooded.
So
That's cold-blooded. Jeez,
medics-
I
the
can
medics
make
got
my
some
own
ice-
mistakes. Thank you. I don't need you to engineer ones for me.
I appreciate you, Tony.
So Boyle is just one example of these leader
squad
upgrades.
leader.
There's a whole bunch of these, right? I mean, I'm not going to list them because I'll get one wrong and that'll be amazing.
Well, and you
but
can see
there's a
them in the
bunch.
document here.
Well,
once
one
we
example of
finish
a way
chatting.
you can customize a unit is adding Boyle and a clone medic to a unit of clone troopers so that they can guardian for another unit and heal back wounds, so that to be a real defensive powerhouse guardian type unit.
So Tony, show us the next card, please. Thank you. So now is the time. Yes, perfect. Beautiful.
That's the clone medic. That we
That's the
talked about.
guy. That's the guy. So yeah, between the personnel slot, between the leader slot, and between the heavy weapon slot, you get to pick what kind of weapon you want to be using. You get to
Right.
pick what kind of personnel you want to be using. Do you want a large squad of clones? Do you want 10 clones in your unit?
Do you want a medic?
Do you want a medic?
Specialist?
Do you want comms? Do you want
And
to
you
use
get
other
the
different
training slot
specialists,
at
right?
56 points, so you
Yep.
get that as well for another level of customization.
And you get an equipment slot, and you can take a grenade slot. We're going to talk about grenades in a little bit, and they're very exciting now. And then you get this leader slot, which is really, the leader slot to me is very exciting because it's usually very powerful, but is kind of on those unique characters. Not all of them, but it is on a lot of the named characters. So
It really adds that personality and that flavor that we've seen over and over throughout the Clone Wars animated series and in all the other media about the clones, who they are, how they function within the Galactic Republic, like armed forces.
This is Boyle's
and
unit
everything
of
else.
clone or 5's units.
Yep.
Unit of
And once you
clones.
put multiples of those on the table, you really start to get that Galactic Republic feel that I think dials into that identity of what they are and what they mean and everything else. And again, all of this allowed the characters to become more characterful, to become less about just being token batteries necessarily for the army, which sometimes they got locked into, and instead to be able to do all the cool things that we see them do on the screen, right? Reliving that fantasy and that epicness that we see in all the media.
Speaking about cool things,
ARC Troopers also got a decent sized update here.
So they got a roll shift to be more aggressive, closer range unit. They lost their range 3, but they gained charge. So charge plus tactical 1 is crazy. You get to move twice, then attack with 2 aim tokens.
and how many dice do those hand blasters roll?
So that's two per ARC trooper. So that rolling 8 dice with 2 aim tokens is a very, very deadly pool.
Yep. And sharpshooter, of course, there as well.
Yeah.
And these guys also have leader slot.
They also got a little less expensive, so you can use them for before they have a counter charge or a charge available. They can move around into position and generate those aim tokens and share them with the army. It's kind of a really fun support role for them.
And Scout 2 really gets them into places that they have no business being in round 1.
Yep.
ATRT, nothing too significant here outside of the Armor 2 change.
And those red defense die now.
So-
Because that's what clones have.
that's what clones
the
wear.
guy on the top is a clone.
Yes, he is, in clone armor, to be specific. Let's talk about the Saber Tank. The Saber Tank has a couple of different changes that kind of define its role, make it more flexible in terms of army construction and everything else.
Yeah. Again, we made these main battle tanks hit a little harder. This one gets surge to hit and gets that second ordnance slot, so that you can have those more customizable ammo options. Get that fun gameplay.
And
Just real quick, we're able. Fire support is still in the game, even though it's not on the clone trooper units, but it does have a different effect. And part of that change is that now we can give certain Republic units surge to hit, surge to crit,
Right.
where we wouldn't be able to necessarily do that before because of the interaction between fire support and the clone trooper units.
all right, so let's dive into the final look, final faction. Last but certainly not least, the Separatist Alliance card rebalances. So we're going to start with the T-Series Tactical Droid. Again, you're going to see that exemplar that's come up quite a bit.
Yeah, this is kind of your minimal commander. The T-Series is a little more expensive because you get the direct core droid trooper that kind of gets that B1 order chain going if you want it.
And then we'll move on to the upgraded version of the T-Series, the Super Tactical Droid.
He gains an eye.
So
That makes him more tactical
Yeah.
because he can see more.
That's the tactical eye.
That's the super
The
part.
super part.
yeah, it gets you a lot for these 15 points. You get more durability with the red defense dice, the 5 wounds. You get it's upgraded to strategize to get dodge and aim tokens, and you get a lot more lethal weapons.
And then, of course, the 2 named Super Tacs.
Yep.
We're going to start with Kraken, who's the punchy fella.
Yeah,
Like all
He's got a heavy
like the
punch.
normal one, he gets exemplar.
yeah, and he will wreck you in melee with that overwhelm. yeah.
We have
So he's very very strong combat options.
We have Kalani, also the exemplar.
Do we want to talk about AI and what changed with
I think
that?
we're going to talk
Yes.
about AI when we get to B1s.
Are they next?
They are
No.
next.
Oh.
We got a couple
okay.
more characters to go through.
I'll calm
But
down.
you brought it up, so let's talk about AI.
We can talk about it.
What a transition.
Who needs a script when you've got a Pagani just throwing things out and a Tony skipping slides?
AI only triggers. So you have to make a force action with AI if you're not ordered, or if you're within range 3 of a commander, you can ignore AI as well. So if you're, it gives a lot more flexibility on how you organize your force, and you can still do the order chains and order control. B1s have not been changed, but
Oh, there's a lot more of them now. 112, I believe you said?
112. But they're using other options is a lot more, a lot easier now because of the AI change.
Yeah, the units with AI are no longer punished as harshly by not receiving orders, which the B1s always kind of got for free,
Right.
Is kind of what we were trying to address with that. So now you're more incentivized into taking, or
It's
maybe,
easier
maybe
to take
not
other
more
units.
incentivized, it's less disincentivized, that's a word.
Penalized.
Penalized. Disincentivized. For taking those units because of the AI on those units. But it also gives your opponent a great counterplay where they can sort of snipe out or scalpel out these tactical droids and the T-Series droids to put that AI back. And then now your droids revert, and then you get that kind of thing.
So protecting your commanders becomes really important, well as opening up some more options for sure. Let's look at the one and only Count Dooku,
Who does not have AI?
who does not have AI.
No.
He does not. No, he's a thinking man.
Yeah. So Dooku got some pretty incredible force lightning here, and native surge to block, so that works in melee as well, which makes him even more dominant versus the Jedi that he can fight. So that it's you can just put this guy wherever you want basically because he's so durable.
He's a bully for sure.
Right. So that's why he didn't get any sort of movement rules because he doesn't really need them. He can just stand and take over the area where he's at.
Yeah, he also got that direct trooper unit to kind of give a little bit of the flavor of, he is, in name at least, the leader of the Separatists. And so, he's very that like, okay, I'm going to scheme and like I'm going to have these plans within plans. But then, when I have to get my hands dirty, I'm more than capable of doing so.
We're going to take a look at General Grievous next, who another one who kind of got a bit of a glow up here.
He got immune to Pierce so that he can fight Jedi without them Pierce without Pierce
Without
just
getting
breaking him.
ruined?
Yeah.
Entourage IG 100, that was my favorite addition to his rule set because now you get to live that fantasy of he's always got his little bodyguard with him.
Yeah, and it's a very effective combo. He is very good in melee as well with his Magna Guard attendants. So and losing Arsenal, having his Annihilator move to the card, having both of his lightsabers move to 1 profile means we could make them a little better by giving them critical 1.
It also simplifies it a bit as well.
Right.
Let's go ahead and take a look at his Supreme Commander command card, which got a little bit of a update.
Yeah, so we wanted to see General Grievous ordering the droids in his army a little more, and this is what this does. It allows him to really spread out surge tokens, and that Ruthless makes it so you can move your droid troopers, your core droid troopers, much more. You get an extra action in exchange for one of them getting defeated, which because of their numbers,
There's only 112 of them, Ben.
right, is actually a very, very strong buff. So him being a ruthless general is what we see here.
Let's talk about B1 battle droids, although we've already talked about the AI changes, but here are the B1s.
Yeah, so with their squad upgrade, they made there's no changes to B1 battle droids, except that they can, as a personnel slot, get another 7 B1 battle droids for 38 points. And then you add the heavy weapon to that, you get 14. And then Separatist Invasion, you can take 8 units of them for 112.
Well, look, man, all I'm
total
saying is
B1s.
my snowtroopers eat good against that.
That's
they
true.
eat very good against that.
Those guys super do not want to see a flamethrower.
I was surprised you didn't get carpal tunnel with how many B1s you were removing from the table. Each activation, it was impressive.
Yeah, we
watching
played
that
it
game.
enough to where we'll see how good it is. It doesn't seem like it's like going to skew out the game as much as we initially predicted. So we went ahead with it.
All right, let's take a look at the
Yeah.
B2 battle droids who did get a couple changes in the rebalance.
Yeah, so part of reassessing them as their roles at core unit, right? So you've got the B1s, which are kind of your horde. Quantity has a quality of its own. Like, you can't attack maybe all of them or get rid of all of them, but they're not very effective and individually as units. And now you've got the B2s where these guys are more durable. They hit harder. They no longer have armor. Instead, now just have a red defensive die. They also got an upgrade to their arm cannons, which are now melee weapons, and they got the wrist rockets so that you can yell, "Watch those wrist rockets" at your
wrist
opponent.
rockets, of
Yeah,
course.
and they have a short-range anti-vehicle option. Just kind of give them the role of
With the red defense die, they're
Yeah,
very,
they're very good at
durable,
moving up
and
and taking
they're very
points.
aggressive to things that are near them. So they can get into aggressive positions and project that short range firepower.
And they do have a squad upgrade going to 8.
yes,
Right.
total.
Yes.
They do.
Yeah,
the
for
heavy
add
weapon.
4 plus the heavy weapon gets
Yep,
you to 8.
gets you to 8.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the BX series droid commandos.
Spring.
These
Yeah.
boys are jumpier now. They got the jump roll, which
Spring.
with their scout moves, with the jump roll, with scale, they're able to move around and get into interesting places on the battlefield with a kind of flexible AI roll. They're able to even move away from your commander some, and they can get to those positions that you really don't want to get a lot of your other units.
Or that you can't
Phenomenal
get
in
with
bunker
your
assault.
that you can't get to with maybe your B2s or your B1s, right?
Right.
That jump one opens up a lot of movement flexibility.
Bunker assault especially,
So
you really get to live that
equipping
Yeah.
with the
narrative
vibro
of them
swords as well is also really cool now.
going in and blowing stuff up. And then last but not least, we're going to look at the AAT battle tank.
So the AAT got a surge to hit.
Yeah, we have one more. Whatever.
Yep.
You can make your own mistakes.
And
I am a man. I will make my own mistakes. Thank you.
so again, this is like these big battle tanks got a little more efficient at putting out their firepower with the surge to hit here.
And double ordnance.
Double ordnance.
This guy already had double ordnance. This is
what taught us
is
about
what
double
taught us
ordnance
about
is
the
more
I
fun.
don't care. Double ordnance.
But he does have
Hashtag.
the double ordnance, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He still has it. That's important to note. It didn't change
Yeah.
because that's the trend. Okay.
The Persuader, the not last card.
Well, it's not the last card, but it is the last card here. Double ordnance again, Ben.
Yeah,
Just to be
I love the
clear.
double ordnance here
Just to
because
be
you
clear.
kind of mix and match. Like the ion cannons are better with some of the ordnance, and the heavy blasters are better with some of the ordnance. So you can kind of like 2 and 2, turn from turn, and just kind of mix and match here. Which is I love the Persuader tank. It is I just love transporting B2s or Magna Guard up the field with it now, and getting those double ordnance slots makes it play very, very fun.
All right, and then the last card that we're going to look at, well, we're done with all the faction updates. We're just going to look at one upgrade card. And this is to kind of discuss grenades in general and to show you the changed impact grenades.
Yeah, so grenades have been changed to it's no longer just a weapon that any miniature in the unit can contribute to the attack pool. Now, one miniature in the unit can add a grenade to the attack pool. And we're showing the impact grenade because it came about because, as we talked about earlier, we wanted players to be able to interact with vehicles more, especially now that one or multiple they can score. You know, you can have one or maybe more than one vehicle, standing on a point, and we wanted players to have an option to dislodge those vehicles, interact with them. So now you have impact grenades. So one miniature in the unit can add the impact grenade to the attack pool to add one black die, and impact 4
to the whole pool.
Pool. A lot of the grenades also have had their range change from range 1 to also be melee weapons as well. So you can give it a little bit of an offensive boost in melee.
Sounds less than ideal to melee somebody with a grenade.
Oh,
but
versus a tank, it's fine.
Oh, sure.
I was gonna say, that's how you use grenades.
You just put it in a hole, right?
You
Yeah.
got it right there. Pop the hatch, throw it in. Done. All done. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our new battle order panel. We only went 10 minutes over, so we didn't need the extra 30 minutes they gave us.
Yeah.
Just 10.
They can have
just
20
10.
of it back?
They can have 20 of it back, depending on how long this outro takes. I mean, we could milk
We
it
could
for
go.
all
We could
worth.
go forever.
All it's worth. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We hope you are absolutely as excited as we are to finally get this into your hands, to start playing games with it, to start exploring all of the new opportunities and options that these rebalance cards are bringing, the brand new battle deck is bringing, and of course the new core rules are offering with their changes and updates as well. Again, all of those documents are available right now on atomicmassgames.com. Just click on the Legion section, go to the rules, and you can get all of it.
Read our
and
article if you want more
start playing.
analysis.
There's
you
also
want-
an article.
there's also an
Highly
If you want
suggest the article.
way more analysis and detail into the thought process behind the change, some of the math, and some of the changes we didn't really even touch on. Go ahead and dive into that as well. It's going to be there for you as well. We can't wait to see how everybody interacts and how this changes all of the games and everything else. Be sure to join us tomorrow for the Legion roadmap, where we'll be showing off all of the new stuff that's coming out over the next 12 months and taking a look at some exciting new things.
I'm just making hand signals over
You're just
here.
doing this? You're just doing this?
doing
All right.
hand things.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Be sure to tune in next. Dallas Kemp is going to be painting some Legion stuff. No, he's going to be painting some terrain, I believe. So check out that as well. Bye.
Oh boy. Oh boy. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to pull up some things. This was absolutely a new edition, though. You know, it's funny. They're like, well, this is not a new edition. He swore up and down it's not a new edition. You can kind of tell when somebody says that they're lying. So yeah, I don't. And this is a weird thing. A new edition doesn't automatically make it a bad thing. New editions are a good thing. They just think that the word edition equals bad. Imagine if I said, what if they thought the word refresh equaled bad? You know, it's definitely Legion 2.0. They updated every single card in the whole game. Every single card is new. They put all the points on the back, which is, God, I hate that the points and the upgrades are on the back. That did not work in Armada. The community unanimously hated it. And we've had to buy like custom cards or redo all the art for every single card in the game that has the points and stuff on the front now. What a terrible decision that was. But that's an aesthetic thing. List builders will take care of that. That doesn't really matter that much. But it's a pet peeve because it's unnecessary and was stupid. And that one guy in the chat did say Armada and didn't get banned. But if I had said it, I would have totally been banned. So I know they're watching for me. All right, we're going to talk about this because there are some good changes in here as well as some very questionable changes and definitely some bad changes. In my opinion. But I want to hear what you guys think. And we're going to do giveaways. We announced some giveaways earlier. We're going to do some force push giveaways also. So let me get all the good stuff in there and we'll go. All right, we're getting everything all set up. All right, battle orders. We got graphics loaded. I'm going to talk about all of this groovy stuff. Okay, let's do giveaways. All right, we've got a bunch of these. Now we did get over 400. We're over 400 viewers, so we're going to give away 4 force pushes. Got 4 of them here now. I don't know if you're going to get the language that you want, but We're going to do our best. Going to do our best with the force pushes. So let's try and get some good force pushes. Force seed pushes out there. All right, let's pick our winners. All right, first winner is going to be Sean Sayer. Winner number 2 is going to be Max Martin. Winner number 3 is going to be Ralph Kramer. And winner number 4 is Rockham. So if you won, congratulations. Go ahead and shoot me an email at mailcrabbok@gmail.com. And we'll throw another one up in Discord also. We'll throw another one up in Discord after this. So that's kind of cool. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this. New logo. By the way, if you want to give away, give me when you shoot me that email, tell me what you won, so I don't give you one of the giveaway prizes for the wrong giveaway. 'Cause I'm doing lots of giveaways. The AMG site is super slow right now. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's downloading stuff. New art for everything. The biggest change, I think, is the mission dashboard. This is the one that I really don't like. Cover system, I am not crazy about, and I'll get to that. But this mission system, the game now ends. It's 5 turns, or when somebody hits 12 points, and they still have more than their opponent. But it's not really 5 turns because you start off the board. So your first turn, the whole first turn, you're just like getting on the board. So first turn 1 is set up, so it's really only 4 turns, which is weird. And then you're really just like trying to get, you play an objective and a secondary objective, and then each player plays an advantage. We look at a couple of these. You can drop some strafing run as this one where you can drop some tokens and put out suppression on people. Some of the secondary objectives here, marking characters, and these seem fine. They're a refresh. They're new. I don't have super hard opinions on them yet because I haven't played with them yet, and sometimes you have to play with one multiple times before you can have an opinion on it. So this seems fine to me, but this also highly illustrates that yes, this is a new edition. This is kind of a new game. It's still going to be like a Legion adjacent game, but to say that this isn't a new edition of the game makes you come off sounding like a liar. Makes it sound like you're hiding something. Makes you sound dishonest and untrustworthy. You can't have me stare at this and be like, oh, this is exactly the same as Legion. It's not a new edition at all. Come on. We're not stupid. You're probably forbidden from saying it's not a new edition, but just don't call it anything. Don't lie to your audience in your stream. It's clearly a new edition. Maybe it means you don't have to go out and buy new stuff. But everything they talked about in here tells you have to go out and buy new stuff. Every single core, every single store. Didn't I say beforehand what they were going to do is make you have to buy like a whole bunch of new stormtroopers? Every stormtrooper now can double its size. So of course come on, try and tell me again how I don't have to go out and buy anything. Of course I do. All the cards, every single one of these things is all new. Yeah, I could print that out and be playing with paper. Or I could buy the card pack that they're going to release. Same thing with GW and all of their new editions. Same thing every game does when they have a new edition. You can download the rulebook and print it out. Or you can go buy the new rulebook and all the new rules. Which, of course, they wouldn't make a new edition if there was nothing to buy. Of course you're going to buy it. And we all know that. Nobody expects to get a whole new edition of the game for free. You're going to have to buy something. But of course, and you can print it out. I mean, you have to buy the ink for your printing. You have to buy paper to print on. So there's always a cost. They wouldn't make it if there was, if it was free. They're not philanthropists. They have to keep the doors open. They have to keep, the lights on. Don't hold back. No, my point is, I'm not upset at a new edition. I'm upset at them just lying to our faces about it, like over something so stupid as what they're gonna call it. I'm like, of course it's a new edition. Nobody's going to even recognize this game. Every single card has a completely new art style, and it works completely differently. All right. Like, this one's actually kind of cool. And the thing is, New Edition is a good thing. It breathes new life into a game. It allows you to have another New Edition 10 years from now. I mean, like, the way I don't even think this is an Atomic Mass Games problem. I think it's an Asmodee thing because of the X-Wing 2.0 and the way they kind of fumbled some aspects of X-Wing 2.0 and the rollout for that. Could have been done, but instead of just applying lessons learned and doing it better, they're trying to, like, cover it up. Like, that never happened. We'll never do a New Edition again. But you got to do New Editions all the time. What are you going to do 20 years from now? This is still Legion 1.0 or 1.579326783. Like, come on. I don't know. That's a silly thing to get hung up on, but it's a thing that I'm getting hung up on because wording is important to me. And maybe I'm out. Maybe it's an unpopular opinion. I don't know, man. Let me know in the chat if you guys get hung up on wording and things like that. But to me, saying that this is still a Legion First Edition is kind of stupid to me. All right. This is something I'm not sure. The way the deployments work. These objectives and the deployments are like the same thing, right? They all are kind of the same in that you're kind of all starting on this kind of side of the board. One of them has you going up a little bit more, and there is one that gives you opposite corners. But for the most part, they're all very, very similar starting positions. But you're starting off the board, so it's very weird. I'm not sure how I feel about that because it seems like it homogenizes deployment a little bit at first glance, but at the same time, I always prefer these type of deployments anyway. So when I'm playing Legion as it is now, like I always put battle line in there. I always want, because this is the way you're usually set up. And we got another super chat, which is very, very cool. By the way, big thanks for our earlier super chat. But we got a super chat from Ethan. Oh, but by the way, we do have we do have mini grab to talk about super chats. He's crazy. Thanks to Ethan. I now understand where all that dev effort went to instead of Armada. Oh boy, yes, dude, that's funny. Yeah, no, it definitely I don't know what they're. Obviously, part of this was to sell more models so they can, make you buy twice as many Stormtroopers as you had. Or again, this is how you know it's definitely a business decision. Not that there's anything wrong with that. 112 B1s you can have. I'm not buying 112 B1s. Not doing it. I'm not gonna buy a single new B1. This is crazy to me. I mean, I've got enough rats and Skaven to put together right now. By the way, Age of Sigmar is a great game. You should definitely check out Warhammer Age of Sigmar. But all right, so we got a lot of these. Recover the research. Look, it's like your deployment's the same. There's objective points and stuff that are different for a lot of these. But look, these all look the same. Shifting priorities, recover the research, intercept signals, breakthrough. A little different, but it's still very much bunker assault. Again, same thing. And that's fine. But they're talking about, like, if you blow up your opponent's bunker, they can't score anymore, and things like that make me worry that the game is now going to be changed to where it's like, I used to want to shoot my opponents, and now if all I have to do is blow up their bunker and I probably effectively win, like, then I wonder if it's going to feel like Legion anymore. So this is the part that has me most concerned. Is this still going to feel like Legion? Is this going to feel like a different game altogether? I worry. This one is familiar, but also they're still both on your side. What's cool about these setups, though, because I'm trying to balance the good and the bad. I want to balance the positive and the negative. One of the positive things here is this deployment is better for real-world table position. When I'm across the table from you, I hate deployments that have me having to walk around to the side of the table or to your side of the table constantly. And all of these deployments let me kind of stay on my own side of the table. I can stand in the middle of the table and play the game on every single one of them. Even this one, I'm just got to stand in the middle so I have equal access to both. So I think that's a good thing for me. I didn't like Long March or the old Caddy Corner one where I had half my stuff on my other side. Yeah, there's a new half range tool. Oh, by the way, how am I going to get the half range tool? You know, yeah, I could print out a little piece of paper, you know, but you're going to have to buy it. So stop pretending like we're not going to have to buy anything for this. You're going to have to buy a whole lot. The new manual is 2.6. Is that what it says? Is version 2.6? I believe it. You know, I mean, honestly, this isn't their first Legion rules change either. They did a big Legion rules change, you know what, like a couple years ago when they made a lot of changes to cover and silhouettes and things like that. And climbing, got rid of, like, changed all kinds of rules, right? They did a lot of changes. Vader got a they didn't show us Darth Vader for a reason. And again, we're going to look at all of this stuff. We're going to check out the errata reference, every single card, right? Every single card. Oh, we'll pull this up in here in a minute. Oh, gosh. And of course, they don't give you the cards in the errata reference. It's just telling you what changed. What in the world is up with that? Points update? No, of course. So, this is frustrating. All of those cards, they're like, oh, you don't have to take screenshots. This will all be on the website. Except it's not. It's just the text version of what changed is on the website. So if you actually want to actually have the cards, you're going to have to buy them. They're not on the website, right? Like, they're not in the errata reference. The errata all right, we'll look at that. We'll look at that. Like these cards. If you want these cards with this new design, all right, it's scroll down to player card. Oh, okay, good. Where the heck is it? Print and plays. Oh, 2024 updated player cards. I wonder if Gar Saxon's going to have his updated thingy. Okay, there they are. Okay, good. Okay, so those are there. We'll flip the. We'll go through a lot of these. Rebel Troopers. Let's see. We've got a lot of stuff. They talked about a ton of stuff. By the way, the game's going to 1,000 points now. That's pretty cool. I don't have any problem with that. Doubling unit size is going to allow you to do that. Changes to cover is a big one. Let's talk about cover changes. I still have to read through it exactly, but this sounded like basically they were saying, all right, so if you have light cover, for every wound you would take, you roll a white die first and have an extra chance to cancel them. So you could, theoretically, if you rolled all blocks or whatever, you could cancel, you know, cover might knock out 20 hits, you know. Possibly it won't, but I mean, like, theoretically it could. Here, we'll put the I'm gonna put the docs page in chat. There you go. It's gonna run slowly right now. So yeah. But cover changes are that's a big deal. But if you're behind heavy cover, you roll red dice before every single hit. So like rebels now don't even care about the T-shirt save; they just need to have heavy cover all the time. They also talked about, like, you only have to be, like, 3 inches from a piece to benefit from cover for it. But then they said, it's like, oh, we didn't want things too close together because the problem was everybody always had cover. But now if you have 3 inches range from something to be able to get cover, it's like, well, isn't everybody still going to have cover? Everybody's going to want cover more than ever now, you know? So I'm like, if heavy cover gives you red dice saves for every hit, I'm running barricades. I'm running exclusively heavy cover for every board I build for the rest of the time. But yes, let's see. They have infiltrate now has changed that you just get a 9-inch. You get an extra move at the beginning. You kind of start on the board, so you get basically a 9-inch scout. Prepared positions lets you deploy before the game. That's a new ability. It lets you start with a dodge token. Transport is now kind of worthless. It's just scout. Basically, you start on board inside the transport, and then the vehicle, once the vehicle deploys, you have to deploy off of that vehicle, which is really weird. You kind of have to deploy, like, kind of right away. But so and it's once per game. So you can only do it at the very, very beginning of the game. So you have to drop your guys off of their transport right away, which is so weird to me because it makes that ability almost totally useless. It's just like, it's just scout, you know. They homogenized infiltrate, transport, and scout into the same thing, which I'm like, you had a golden opportunity to do something different, but I don't know. And yeah, and you can't get back into the doors. Basically, are welded shut after that. So that's, you know, no. Sometimes mechanics have to trump theme. You know, And I'm okay with it being once per game, but you should at least get to move first, you know? Like, that's the whole point of a transport. The AA5 just got, like, significantly worse with that. And then, like, and the other thing, the other problem is the fleet troopers, and that's the other thing, is, like, the fleet troopers, Leia, Luke got changed hardcore. But the fleet troopers, let me go up to find the fleet troopers. They gave them charge, but let their blaster work in melee. They're never going to survive to a charge if they can't be transported into the middle of battle. Fleet troopers, like, they got a buff, but I feel like they got a much bigger nerf with transport. Yeah. Cover rule, can I explain it better? We have to read up on it. But basically, if I've got light cover, you attack me, you roll 6 hits. Instead of just removing 1 damage, I roll for all 6 hits. I roll a white die, and then I have a chance to, whatever I cancel with my white defense dice, so every block I roll, let's say I roll 1, or maybe I roll 2, right? Then the other 4 I have to defend normal, so I do my normal save. If I have heavy cover, I roll red dice, and everything I block, very few gets through, and then I roll my normal. So a Stormtrooper behind heavy cover is rolling a red die twice. You know, like, which it sounds bonkers to me because they're like, everything's so much more survivable. I'm like, yeah, but until you drop a barricade on the field and then, like, nothing ever dies. You know? Yeah. So that's crazy. That's great. Heavy cover is now, like, just like, I don't know. We're gonna have to play it and see, but it just sounds like nothing ever dies anymore. You know? And they're like, well, we didn't want, like, a small dice pool to not matter. I'm like, yeah, but now you've made small dice pools and large dice pools both do no damage when, you know, to anybody behind heavy cover. I mean, even 1 die, if I get to roll a red die twice, forget about it. You know, that's assuming I'm playing Stormtroopers. I usually play Empire, so more often than not, I have that stuff. Rebel veterans look cool. They start off. They're speed 1 now. They're kind of entrenched, but they start off, you know, deployed a little farther ahead of time. The FD cannon still has no movement, stationary still. Commandos, again, we talked about how core Stormtroopers and stuff, and you know, they can all double their unit size. So you got to buy a lot more miniatures. Rebel Commandos, same thing, except they did it a different way. You can now take a strike team only if you have the full unit. But taking that strike team doesn't count against your maximum number. So you can now run 3 Rebel Sniper Commando units and 3 Rebel Sniper Strike teams. So you can run 6 snipers, which is kind of crazy to me. You know? I don't know. But again, they need to sell more, you know, Rebel Commando packs. They're reprinting these. Everybody's already got all the snipers they need, but they're reprinting them. How do we force you to buy more? You can run 6 now, you know. So that's how they force you to buy more. ATRTs, armor got changed in a big way. Full armor, they said, is gone, although it may still show up. There was a little bit of hesitance when they said it was, like, they didn't want to say it was totally gone. They said, like, it's pretty much totally gone. The fact that they say pretty much totally gone means there's probably at least 1 unit with full armor. And who should have it? The AT-AT. I bet you they're doing an AT-AT. I bet you they're going to do an AT-AT with full armor. But yeah. X-34 lost its transport, which kind of stinks. Although, the way they completely destroyed transport, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. X-34, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever run this thing again. It used to be good for transport and having some guns. They really tried to hype up, like, very small dice pools as being effective. And, I guess, because you nerfed large dice pools with those cover rules so bad. Like, honestly... And the thing is, that's going to slow down gameplay. If every single roll you have to roll 2 sets of dice to defend against, I feel like that's going to slow down gameplay in the long run over the course of a tournament. You'd probably be like an extra hour's worth of rolling over the course of a tournament. AA5, a lot of the new units. Krennic got some big changes. Since the game's only 5 turns now, they had to change his Annihilation Looms. It's now 2 suppression or a 3rd suppression. It's gonna be nasty for there's one of those objectives. Oh, by the way, let's go back. Somebody pointed out in one of these cards, one of the things that they were showing. Like this one, Jar Jar Binks is there behind Breakthrough, and Where is it? Basically, there's Gungans in the background of some of this art. There's a whole Gungan army in the background of a lot of this art, which is extremely exciting. So it's basically soft confirmation that Gungans are coming tomorrow when they do their Legion roadmaps. So I'm happy about that. I'm unsure about how the game is going to still play after this. They changed flamethrowers to make them work in melee. That was, I think, a smart change. There was a couple of smart changes here. I'm really concerned about the new deployment and objective system and scoring and winning the game. And is it just, oh, I just want to get 15 points right away and win? I'm not doing combat. I'm just going to seek objectives. And there's no point in obviously, to say there's no point in shooting anymore is an extreme take. That's not really what I'm saying, but I'm afraid it's going to lean a little bit towards that with certain setups, and that would be feels bad for me, because to me Legion is all about, when I play Legion, I don't care about points. I just want to kill every single thing my opponent brings on the board. To me, Legion is a death match. I want to kill everything that you brought, and granted, that usually leads to a victory, because then I'm free to go score points. But if you score a whole bunch of points and I'm still killing everything, you got that one guy left that's scoring all these points, I don't know. It's just, I'm worried about it, but we'll see. I got to play it out. Got to see. It may be fine. I may have tons of fun killing everything that you've got. But the way that the changes to cover sounds insane. Sounds really insane. Blast, like with the flamethrower, like blast is probably gonna be like the most overpowered word in the whole, keyword in the whole game now. If heavy cover lets you roll a whole red die for every single hit before you actually save, I mean, forget about it. That's insane. That's insane. I gotta look up cover to see if there's not, like, if they didn't just explain it wrong, you know. Yeah, because everything has to have blast 100% of the time. There's just no way to shoot anybody without blast unless you catch them out in the open. E-Webs, Imperial Dark Troopers. Again, armor is reduced. You know, big vehicles seem to have armor 5. Vehicles can contest objectives now. ATST, I mean, it usually doesn't get dice pools that have more than 5 hits to begin with, so it's probably gonna end up being about the same. But if you do have, and again, this is one of those reasons they want you to run 112 B1s so you can roll, 22 white dice in a single attack. They want your Rebel Troopers to have the Z6s and then 10 more Rebel Troopers and stuff like that. They want you to roll these massive dice pools in hopes that, because that's what happens in 40K. I feel like they've made the game a lot more like 40K. I feel like they really have. With like doubling the dice pools, the cover rules feel like a ward save, and I don't know. It's like, yeah, I got all these hits. Now we got to see if I wound. I don't know. I don't like the cover changes. I don't like the cover changes at all. Lats. Padme Amidala, she's useless now. Exemplar is gone. Apparently all clones have Exemplar now. That's just the clone ability. Anakin got a total rework. Tempted, we'll have to look up Tempted. His command cards totally changed. Obi-Wan Kenobi got, what did he get? He still looks good, right? Guardian 3. Oh, Soresu, they talked about that. Some changes to certain keywords by how they mean. Bigger units means you have to buy more dice too. Not me. Not with like how many core sets do I have? I've got way too many dice. I don't think I could possibly roll all of my dice. Clones are Phase 1 and Phase 2s are now combined into just Clone Trooper Infantry, and you pick how you want them to be. I think that's actually kind of cool. That actually means I have to buy less clones because I don't have to. If I can mix my Phase 1s and Phase 2s together. Although they're not all going to be painted the same. I painted each squad to kind of be their own thing. I don't know. I'm going to do that now. All right. Yeah, and then they have different leader cards. The clones have a special unique upgrade for that clone leader, which I thought is kind of interesting. Arc Troopers, ATRT, Saber Tank, and then our Separatist AI got some changes. So if you have like an AI commander, you don't have to do the AI, so you don't have the B1 chain as much anymore. I've got to read into that a little bit more. Big changes to AI make it less punishing if you don't get your orders. Yeah, less punishing if you don't get your orders. Count Dooku got some changes. His Force Lightning is 6 dice now. Built-in defensive surge, which I thought is very cool. Grievous got some changes. Entourage, IG, Magna Guards, which is good. His lightsabers now have critical 1, and they're a single weapon. And his 2-pip got a rework. His command cards were really bad, so I'm glad there's a little bit more to do there. And I'm sure there's going to be more on the website. We'll take a look at everything else. But I'm going to break all this stuff down. We'll do another. We'll do more. Grenades are now only one person can throw the grenade, but they can also be used in melee, which is weird because if I throw a grenade in melee, am I not blowing myself up? You know? Yes. Yeah. There's a lot. Like everything has changed. Everything has changed. So, but it's not a new edition. Which is just the craziest thing in the world to me. You changed everything, but it's not a new edition. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. That's just nonsense to me. But good things. There is good things. I think the grenade change is a good thing, long-term health. Force push went up in points tremendously. And they used that as an excuse to decrease the cost of a Jedi who would have otherwise taken a 10-point force push. So I'm guessing force push is probably like 25 points now. Well, let's see. Play cards. There's all these cards in here. Well, let me go back. Let's see what we can do here. Here we go. I'm looking at some of these. This is pretty cool. So we've got all the units here on the website. The Battle Force units, the new command cards. Let's see, Fear and Dead Men. Oh yeah, I gotta see Darth Vader. Let's see what they did to Darth Vader. Let's scroll up to the top. All right, Rebels. Wait, is this only the ones that changed? But everything should have a new art style, right? Is there not a Darth Vader update? Oh. Okay. Yoda got cheaper. Guidance is only for Trooper now. So no free stuff for tanks. I don't know. People talk about Yoda being so broken and stuff. Like, I've had fun with him, but I don't know. I don't play that competitively where it's... where I'm super worried about all of it. So, I don't know. But yeah, like, where are these gonna come? Like, I guess if something doesn't exist in here, then it's untouched. That's my guess. You know, so Vader probably is still the same, which Vader was always good. Palpatine's still the same, was always good. Why is in this kind of art style, though? You know, or maybe they just have to add more. I don't know. Bistan. Yeah. All right. Oh, I hope they add another Pathfinder heavy. I really hope they do that. I hope to add more. Oh, look at all 5s. All right, we got all the other clones in here. Lots of other stuff. This is very cool. This is very cool. All right, okay. Well, a lot to take in, a lot of rules to read through, but ultimately, this is a whole new edition for Star Wars Legion. Whole new edition. I think the two biggest changes, I think, is cover and the new objectives. Force push is 40 points. Thank you, Epic 327. Yeah, it's in the points update document. Thank you. I don't think force push is in the... Oh, it's in the... All right. Yeah, 40 points for force push. You're gonna... I have a feeling that will adjust a little bit over time. I think what they did here is they said, before we roll this out to everybody, let's really make it undesirable and see how many people still take it. Yeah, coherence is now not a half inch, but half of the movement tool. So you have to have everybody, I think, a little closer together. If you're a double point unit, you have a range 1. And it's not movement speed. It used to be a movement speed. It's not. It's the half is their new half basically distance 1. So I think you end up being a little bit closer together, but still about the same. About the same. Yeah, it's just a different way to measure it. You're not using the one movement tool anymore. Which, to be fair, that is also a common sense change. That you shouldn't have used the movement tool to measure distance, you know, or to measure range. You know, you use movement tool to measure movement distance, not necessarily, you know, distance for cohesion. So I think that makes sense. I think that's a smart change. More named clones are now a realistic possibility now. Yes, absolutely. For anyone needing a half movement tool, judging by the deployment card, it's 3 inches. Hey, I got a 3-inch movement tool, and gosh, that sounds dirty. There was a lot of people making 3-inch tool jokes as they were talking about things. Yeah, Age of Sigmar gave a bunch in their core set, a 6-inch and a 3-inch tool for quick measuring. It's pretty fun stuff. A lot of people sell, you know, Etsy little aftermarket little quick range measuring tools. Can I send them thing again? Let's see. There's all the docs. All the documents are in there. You can check them out. They look pretty good. As far as the art, they look really, really pretty. I really don't like the points and upgrades and everything on the back, because now instead of one card, I have to look at 2 cards. And if I'm doing it in real life, if I'm looking at a card in person, I have to flip it over. I have to keep flipping cards over. I have to be like if I have my binder, like, do you guys ever use a binder for your pages? And you're like, oh, okay, this is all these guys. Wait, you don't know if something's good or bad. You don't know if you can fit it in your list. You don't know what upgrades it can take. Oh, can I take grenades on this guy? Hold on, I have to pull it out and look at the back. Oh, no, I can't. You know, it just makes list building so much more difficult. I hate it. I hate it. Yeah. Not a fan. Not a fan. There's going to be more takeaways. But that's, I think that's going to do it, folks. I think that is going to wrap it up for today. We're going to see more new stuff. Now, the cool thing is that tomorrow we're getting almost certainly Gungans confirmed. So that's exciting. I hope the game is still fun to play. I don't like too much randomness. I feel like they're really making it out to be 40K. Star Wars 40K. With the cover saves, that basically ward saves for everybody, or, you know, roll to hit, then roll to wound, kind of, except your opponent has to make the 2 rolls instead of the attacker, which is really weird. The defender has to make those extra rolls. It's so strange to me that they're doing that. You know, and then all the different deployments kind of look the same, which is weird. But I mean, they're all deployments I generally want to have anyway, so maybe it'll be fine. We'll have to play through it and see. But this is also, they said this is only the first part. There's other things coming too. I don't know what those other things coming. They said there's like a whole lot more stuff coming over so this won't roll out until next year, which I don't know what they were talking about, because they also said this is legal right away. So like, so what? You know, it's big, like, what? It's so confusing. They're crazy. They're crazy. Crazy guys trying to change Legion without calling it a new edition. How you gonna do that? That's my takeaway. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. I want to thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you soon. May the Force be with you. Big thanks to my patrons. If you guys want your names in the credits, there's Patreon levels for that. We're also going to be expanding Patreon even more soon. I will talk to you soon. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. And oh,